Hello, everybody. How's it going? How are we hanging?
Look,
I assume most of you are coming over from Gibby's stream. I just all tried to poach as many of his viewers as possible, but there's only a third of you. My God! If y'all hit like and spam 14 and balls in the chat or whatever you want to, I don't know. People have been doing that on my streams for some reason the last few days. I think because I started talking about David's "There is a ball." And now it's become a thing which is spammed in my chat for some reason. But if you all spam that and put that in the chat, then hopefully we can push this out a little bit more, and people who are at Gibby stream might see it in their recommended and stuff like that. Giovanni,
Hold on, I'll be right back. I'll be right back.
Mr. Cheese, classic, always unwithered viewers. So T-Dreads and Candy Bunny are here. Gibby said he might be able to come back later, and we'll see if we can, if we can't rope maybe Brad Toast into this, but we'll see. There is a god, David. That's really funny. This is actually one way to stop pushing religion on all his fans. Word truth, please don't stay up too late. Haha, I'm still recovering from all the sleep I lost from your other streams. No, Peanut Butter, you could go to bed. It's okay. You can watch it on repeat. Sauce is best, and thank you so much. Peak has entered. Peak has arrived. Well, I suppose Candy, while we're waiting for TD to come back, how are you? Where have you been? You vanished off the face of the earth.
I've been hiding in a metaphorical cave.
Yes.
Basically,
Yeah.
I after my my April Fool's video in April, I all of a sudden just didn't make any videos, and I also didn't watch any FNAF content, period. So I have no idea what anyone's theories are. I came back and T-Dreads is losing his freaking mind, so that's crazy.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think I've been here for his slow descent into madness, so
seriously, but I'm here he's at the bottom now, and I missed the descent, so he was a perfectly reasonable person when I entered the cave, and now that I'm out, he's making... God, David. But I also didn't see any of Secret of the Mimic stuff except for the very first gameplay trailer. And so all of it was very fun and new, and then I didn't watch anything until I had basically 100% of the game. So it was really fun to have the unspoiled experience. 10 out of 10.
Nice. Yeah, I was playing it live as soon as it came out and I got it installed and everything, and it was genuinely really, really fun. I've got things that I would, critique about the game or say, oh, I didn't love that, or thought that they could have done that differently or whatever. But I will say the experience of playing through it the first time, I really, really enjoyed. I know I was lucky because my experience wasn't marred by bugs and stuff like that. A lot of people, Gibby, lost a huge amount of progress because of a save bug in one of the sections, and you have to start from the very beginning again. And if something like that had happened, I would have freaked out. But I was lucky to say that my copy didn't get bugged at all. And the only issues I had then were on the second replay, in terms of how they were doing the save states and stuff like that. But overall, I thought it was a really fun experience. Sorry, I should be on the dual screen so they can see. Oh, that's interesting. You've changed appearance. Give me 2 seconds.
Oh, heavens. I seem to be split in half.
Yeah, I thought I fixed that earlier. Give me 2 seconds.
That's okay. I can be severed, Candy.
Oh, it's because T-Dreads left the call and everything's broken now. Great.
He'll be back.
Yeah, we have to put Candy back together eventually, but
it was difficult to put the pieces together. Yeah, my playthrough was so freaking smooth, and so I was texting Gibby about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm having so much fun. And he was like, this game is a buggy mess. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
I've had the perfect experience, and I've had it all the way through. The only bug that I even noticed was and I didn't notice it until my second playthrough, is that the white tiger in the basement section wasn't spawning for me in the second half of the fight, basically. But I thought that I thought I was in a maze with no enemy, and I didn't realize there was supposed to be an enemy there.
Oh, okay.
Which was fine because I sucked at it anyway, and I still didn't find the audio down there. So
yeah, the only thing I would say is because all the other parts of the game, they don't put any of the audio in any of the areas or any collectibles or anything in the areas that you can't go back to, but they do put that secret room in the Tiger Rock place, and you can't go back to it once you've beaten it. So I was trying to today go through and collect all the audio logs because I wanted to record them all and put them up either as a video or just have them for myself, because in the files they're not like clumped together as like audio file 1. It's like each line that the character speaks is a different file. So if you watch like Mamakato had them all uploaded, it's like only Edwin's lines or only Edwin's side of a dialogue will go on, and only Fiona's side when in different videos. So I wanted to record them all, but I couldn't get back to that Tiger Rock section, so I was like, I'm not playing the whole game again to find one secret room, you know.
Chat saying my audio might be a little too loud.
Yeah,
no, but I was doing the same thing, and I had the exact same experience where I was trying. I realized that was the one that I hadn't gotten, and I haven't gotten it yet. But I am gonna go back and get it because I'm so close to 100%ing the game. So if you want, I can send you a save state right before that when I get there. But it might be a couple days.
That would be amazing. Yeah, if you do that would be amazing. Unwithered, explain how ass that float puzzle was. Oh, also my notifications are set up to block certain words. That's interesting. The float
Wait, what's
puzzle.
the float puzzle?
That's the one oh god, that float puzzle. That's the one in the docking bay with all of the floats for Fall Fest. You know, the guys hitting the hammers and the big feet and the alligator and the spinning things that have the flag on it.
Have you ever seen oh shoot, what's it called? Galaxy Quest, the one with Sigourney Weaver, where they're like they're in like a classic sci-fi movie, and there's a part where there's like all these things stomping down, and she's like, "It makes no sense why these things are in this room right now." That's how I felt in that. It makes no sense that I should be walking under these right now. I should just be able to jump a little.
Yeah, I was thinking of Attack of the Clones with the all the big, you know, hammers and big knives and whatever on that assembly line. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
In like the Genos and factory, is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I got really frustrated at that puzzle because on the New Game Plus redo, there's a collectible upstairs after that section, but to get to it, you have to do that whole puzzle. Theory Chum, thank you very much. Look at the enemies in Lolhax's FNAF World update. Okay,
look at the enemies in Lolhax FNAF World update.
But yeah, when I was playing that the second time around, it really got frustrating because then I think I had to go back later and I had to do the puzzle again, and it takes so long to do those floats. And it's like, it's not even challenging, it's just time consuming. It's like, this game has 25 hours of gameplay, 15 of which are moving around these giant float things. Let me see.
That's funny. Couldn't be me. I felt like that puzzle was fine for me.
It was, hey, come
just
on.
had like the smoothest chatter candy. Oh my gosh, I just had like the smoothest gameplay experience ever. So I just, every time somebody's complaining, I'm just out here like, can't relate. I had a great time.
It was totally fine on the first playthrough because I quite like those kind of like Tetris-y, you know, oh, I can't move it here, I have to move it here first, and I enjoyed figuring it out the first time. But it was on the redo around, like where I went back again, then I was like, okay, I've already figured out this puzzle. I've already done the fun part, which is figuring it out. Now I've got to like realign, and also because you're starting it in a new position that you figured out from the ending, so you're not even going from the like starting position. You have to like undo your own work and then redo it again on the other side, and it just got frustrating to do it multiple times. But I thought it was fine on the first one around. Lol's Hacks FNAF World update. I don't know where I'm gonna find this on online. Is this one of the troll games that, because I think Lol's Hacks is like Scott's fake user, right? That he releases the hacks on. The FNAF World update. I don't remember a FNAF World update. I'm gonna check the chat because people are probably saying it.
Are we talking about? Wait, no, that's not right. I was thinking Lol's Hacks was the boss of the Freddy in Space in that game, but that's not right, is it?
I think he is. He's in Freddy in Space too, but that's what I'm trying to find, because Theory Chum said it's the Lol Hacks FNAF World update. But
is that just is that not the Halloween update? How many updates were there to FNAF World?
That's what I thought. I thought it was just the FNAF World update, but I don't know. I could be completely wrong. If you know where I can just look that up or what I need to type into Google, tell me where it is. Lol's Hacks is a fake hacker that released fake leaks of troll games. He appeared as an actual character. It wasn't Lol Hacks that was lying, it was Scott. Scott said it was fake, but look at the enemies. Yeah, but I'm trying to find actually what your enemies in the FNAF World Halloween update. Oh, okay, sorry. FNAF World Halloween update. But I don't know how LOL relates to that.
The
Oh, here we
headphones
go.
on your unwithered model are sending me, by the way. Just absolutely hilarious.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really fun to make these different stages because I've got ones for me playing the games and I've got ones for me doing podcast interviews, and I've got a couple of different ones set up.
Nice.
Okay, so this is the copy of FNAF World Halloween Edition. Okay, so this is like an 8-bit sprite one. Let me see if I can find a FNAF World Halloween Edition. Okay, cool. FNAF World Halloween Edition sprites. All right, I'm getting to the bottom of this theory, chum. We've got enemies. We have Ball Boy. We have Mad Endo. We've got Cheesehead. We've got Tangle. I'm actually gonna put this up on screen. Green screen. All right. Oops. I'm gonna close that. So look, we've got all of these guys. So, Party Hat B, Party Hat A, Security, Purple Geist, Mini B, Red Bear. That's interesting. Zangle.
Wait, your stream right now is just your Discord messages.
Bruh. Sorry.
I can see all your friends who are online.
No. Hang on. Pardon me. What am I looking? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong screen. That's why. Sorry. I thought it was the window capture. Lol. Hope I didn't just expose anything. Right. So we have Ball Boy. We have Mad Endo. We've got Cheesehead. We've got Tangle. We've got Prototype. We've got Half Bake, Brow Boy, Anchovy, Mad Jack, Quad Endo, Mud Pie, Big Jack, Zangle. Brew Rendition. Thank you so much for becoming a Withered Zealot. Hell yeah. That's our first Withered Zealot, actually.
Yo, that's cool. I like the screen.
Thank you. I could be stupid, but I don't know exactly what you are.
The prototype looks similar to what's down in R&D.
Yes, I think that's what the prototype one was, the one that stood out to me.
Yeah.
Oh, is that really loud? Sorry, chat.
It's kind of hard because in FNAF, not like they never come up with new content, but there really are only like a handful of motifs. They're like the circus, the prototype, and then the toys and birthdays and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It's like if I see a birthday cake, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just like every other FNAF game because birthdays are referenced in every single FNAF game. But yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, we've got the Jack in the Box. So that'd be like Jackie.
True. And it is called Big Jack.
We've also got Mad Endo, which you could say is Mimic 2.
He is pretty mad.
Security.
Mad
that's kind of like Fiona. It's kind of like Fiona. I thought I died just then. I'm so sorry that was so loud, chat. It's so weird because in other streams it's been really quiet. This whole audio level thing. Funny how the security bot isn't an owl in FNAF World. It's a mimic. Security bot. This one? Yeah, it's got the head like I was talking about earlier that Fiona has. But yeah, that's
I think it's interesting. It's not an owl because the owl is named Security, but then this thing here that's called Security is not the same
Tangle.
as the boss Security.
The Tangle. Look at this. Ball Boy, David, right there. Ball Boy. Interesting. And we got Red Bear, which if you believe in David ToyShink, you think is also David in FNAF World. So let me see. Fazbear Entertainment. David also wears the exact same shirt. There's a ton of similarities. Yeah. So let me see. So, in terms of David, right? So I don't know if anyone I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people in the chat who've either come from Gibby's stream or have seen my streams or seen T-Dread streams or whatever. We all kind of share a viewer base. But for those of you unaware, we're talking a bit about the idea of how David, the crying child, and Gregory might be related. We're just talking generally about Secret of the Mimic theories, but I mean, is there anything in particular, Candy, that stood out to you when you finished the game, like all the different endings? Was there anything that kind of jumped out at you and said, like, oh yeah, this must be the biggest lore drop of all time, or whatever?
No, honestly, nothing that I think is super revolutionary to people, because I think what it sounds like literally everyone else is talking about is trying to figure out the where Fiona and the essence of David is throughout the whole story. Whereas I've been just more interested in the game as a self-contained story, which I think is like less interesting objectively, because like most people care about FNAF because of 1 through 6, and then a lot like another viewer base because of Security Breach. So if I just want to talk about Secret of the Mimic by itself, it's just less exciting. But so I'm thinking a lot about what the moon is, obviously, and that whole moon section. It's just very mysterious and fun. And that one's more interesting. But then the other thing is just thinking about is like trying to parse together what like what characters are recontextualized as being, or what characters and technology are recontextualized as being not original Fazbear stuff and being Edwin's creations. And also like what was Edwin's exact relationship with Fazbear? There's the audio log where he calls himself or what does he say? It's like, they're treating me like I'm just some contractor to crack a whip at, which implies to me that I think other people said this, that he was actually supposed to be more like a third partner in the business, but then he was getting like tossed aside and treated like a contractor, even though he was more than a contractor? Question mark.
Yeah, so this is something I found really interesting about his relationship to William and Henry. And even if we take all the stuff about like Will Cook and or Will whatever we call it, Ed Cook or whatever we're doing, take all that out of it, just go with basically what's on the surface, what is the text, and take out subtext. We've got William poaching employees from Edwin and intentionally collapsing Edwin's life around him in terms of his business and trying to steal stuff from him. I assume T-Dress is not coming back, by the way, so I'll fix your avatar now in a second. But
I don't know. Your shattered candy is pretty fun. I'm vibing with it. Maybe you should split me into more pieces.
Yeah, I'll just create an entire smorgasbord of candies spread around the screen. But yeah, something I found really interesting was this relationship he seems to hold as, because he first of all, we hear that he inherits the factory and the company from his dad. He talks about a rebrand, which is interesting. At first I thought, it was Murray Co. and he turned it into the MCM, but we do see on that graph showing all the different years of Murray Co. It does specifically say MCM over the years, so it goes back as like far as 1964 or something. So he just means, I suppose, a rebrand in terms of like what they push. And so he then starts working on his own inventions, which I assume are all the coat rack and the Cleanovac and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
That's a really interesting.
I wonder what they were doing before that. I mean, probably the same line of business, but
yeah, I'd say more simple stuff, like maybe not as crazy inventions, like probably just like your regular household appliances or something like that. Or maybe they were more of a costume manner. Maybe they weren't. Maybe as technological.
Actually, yeah.
Maybe they were like a linen factory.
I feel like it was probably actually exactly what it's advertised as when you come in, where he's like, we make mid-weight games and then we make costumes. And then when Murray takes over, all of a sudden you have all these other inventions that have really nothing to do with costumes or mid-weight games.
Yes.
The Cleanovac, the coat rack and cereal and stuff like that are all like totally unrelated. So maybe that was Edwin's direction of just shooting them out to all sorts of different products.
Yeah, and it seems that he rushes that, or he's not very good at it at least, because all those products start getting returned real quick. We read those in the logs.
And there's like at least 2 logs where probably real Fiona is like, you're rushing it too much. You need to give these things time. People can't keep up. You can't keep up.
Yeah, but when he inherits it from his dad, then he seems to go into business, or I don't think he goes into business. I think they were already in business with Fazbear, but it seems to me that Fazbear, William specifically, are treating him like a friend or telling him that they're his friend and like, oh yeah, you're basically the third head, like it's me, you, and Henry, like we're all sort of operating together. And he goes under the impression that they're friends, that everything is working out. He's not really a contractor, he's just sort of co-developing stuff with them. And then it's when they decide to, I think it's probably a plan from the beginning that they're going, oh, this kid is fresh meat, like he doesn't know what he's doing, because he even says to Fiona, they all think I'm gonna fail and everyone's gonna hate me. So he has no belief in himself, and I assume that nobody else has belief in him other than Fiona. So I think William is like, has his eyes on this guy's company, and he starts to pick apart at him one by one and tear down everything and start poaching people from inside the company. And then he starts to go, oh my god, Dad was right, these guys are bad news, which I think means that William and Henry were in business with the dad. And then
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too about that audio quote. Dad was right. I shouldn't I shouldn't trust them. I wasn't sure if that was about not trusting William, Henry, and Fazbear, or if it was about, because he also thinks that his employees are stealing his designs. So I wondered if he was saying don't trust Fazbear or don't trust the other people in admin who are stealing his ideas and leaving. I could see it going either way.
I could see it going either way. I would imagine it'd be kind of cool if this, because it would then make William a lot more sinister in the idea that like this guy had a bad working relationship with Edwin's dad, to the point where Edwin's dad didn't trust them and didn't like them, but worked for them like out of, you know, necessity or money or whatever. And he specifically warns his son, and then Edwin takes over and naively starts to trust William and Henry, and then it makes it much more tragic when he turns against them, or when they turn against him. And I quite like that. Fazbear Entertainment says, I think William blackmailed Fiona because she was the leak, and then killed her at Fall Fest, poached employees from Edwin, and then killed David, all to steal his land and business. I was thinking about Fiona being the leak. She could be the leak, but I don't think she's the leak that we read about in the logs. Because the one in the logs, he promises to become a manager at the new franchise location. I don't think Fiona cares about being a manager for Freddy's, or that she'd take that job.
Yeah, I think the two most likely candidates for the leak are Ralph, like you said earlier in the day, where it's Ralph, and that's the same Ralph that's going to become the phone guy. Or it could be Milton, because we see that Milton is like a executive level, like he manages all the administrative people, and he would have access to the kind of information that William is looking for, all the names and contact information of everyone who works at the company.
Milton would be good because he's actually marked, and it was a weird detail and I didn't know what it meant, but he's marked as red flag in one screen in the whole game. It's in the part with Dolly where it was where you were looking to get back to with the helper in the incinerator or the melter.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, where they shows the hours and then it shows that he's only worked 40 hours or something like that, and this is red flag.
Red flag. Yeah.
This is essential for me to update my spreadsheet with, not spreadsheet, Google Doc. I'm not obsessed with spreadsheets.
Fazbear Entertainment says, well, with that leak, all he wanted was employee names, different leak than the blueprints. Yeah, that could be true, because he does say someone told them about M2, and the weird thing is that, like, who else knew about M2? Like, why would...
People do know about M2, but they don't exactly know what it is, because there's the other text log about people. Somebody says, like, he's always up in the house talking to that thing. I have to find it again. There's so many of these. But
by the time of David's death, people have to know about Fiona, because she's in the room when he's like, everybody hide, we're gonna go get David. So she's like walking around as a big robot being like, I baked it for him. So everyone has to know.
Okay, but somebody in Gibby's chat was saying that there's nobody else actually in the shot, which definitely when I was watching that, I noticed that, but I was like, yeah, that's fine. They just don't want to render a bunch of people they don't have to show. The camera doesn't have to be on them. But he was saying maybe actually David didn't die on his birthday, and Edwin is just delusional, and it's just him and Fiona trying to hold a birthday with the first M2 that eventually malfunctions and he doesn't want to rebuild, which I don't know that there's like a ton of evidence for it besides people not being in the room, but it is a really like kind of like a creepy cool idea of like him and this robot being completely alone in this factory with a robot son, and he's trying to pretend like none of it happened.
Yeah, I did see when I was reading the logs and they brought up like, oh, we're having a birthday for his son. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, why is he having it in here? And then I was thinking about it, and we see that tape then, and I was going, oh, wait, was it actually a birthday? But the problem is, in those logs, the day of the birthday, which is the 6th, Milton sends out an email which says, unfortunately, we have to cancel the birthday due to the tragic events, or whatever it's something like that. It's like due to the tragic events today. So I don't know what that would be if it was all a fake birthday that was set up, unless we're saying that it was the birthday after that, which they kept the same room set up for a year.
That's right.
Ah, T-Dead. Candy, we put you back together.
Do we know that David's birthday is December 6th from anywhere other than the admin logs?
No.
Oh,
I
I'm
don't
no
think so.
longer Shattered Candy.
Yeah, T-Dread's put you back together.
Because I wasn't actually sure that, well, this was before I had even gotten into the birthday room, so I wasn't sure at all. But I was like, oh, so his birthday has to be sometime December 6th or later. And then I didn't find anything personally that pointed to when his birthday was, but I found it entirely plausible that the birthday was canceled beforehand, if that makes sense. And then the video could. David is already dead and he's absolutely freaking delusional. I don't know. There's not a lot of evidence to it, but I did think it was cool. But another problem with it, though, is that there is the audio log from Edwin when he's in the admin room where he's like, attention, traitors, pack up your stuff. I don't remember the rest of it.
No, he says you're not allowed to pack up your desks. I'm keeping your mugs and your purses and everything. I'm going to go find someone else to sell it to. How's that feel? I love that. It's so
That's
funny.
right. And so it wouldn't really work out very well if what if you have December 6th, David dies, a couple of days later, maybe, Edwin is like, everyone pack up, and then on the day of the actual birthday, the thing is empty, and yeah, I don't think the timeline makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. I just got a super chat there, and let me see. Sauce Beston, do we know Dispatch's name? It could be Milton. That's interesting. Kind of like that idea.
Ooh. I don't think we do, but people were calling him something, but I don't remember what. Let me look at the
People
credits.
are probably calling him Andy because Andy Field is the voice actor. But
If you want to give your audience something to look at during the stream, you can put me I'm speedrunning Secret of the Mimic. You can put that in the corner.
Sure, I could do, yeah. Let me see. I'll get this up. Let me see. No. Let's see. Display capture.
Fantasy meets whiz.
What?
Well, fantasy and fun come to whiz. Fazbear Entertainment is literally not responsible for damage to fucking property or fucking person or anything like that.
What are you saying?
Oh,
Crazy.
fuck. I failed the no clip. I'm a failure.
Failed the no clip.
I'm another day.
People already have like strategies for this game.
Of course. Dude, Astral Spiff broke the game like day one.
Oh my god. Actually, I did see like game run in like 30 seconds or whatever. Something insane.
Another thing I thought that was interesting about the game was the message from Henry about trying to get rid of the spring lock suits, and the date of Henry knowing that spring locks are dangerous being way earlier than we would have thought. Like at the absolute latest, that could be what, 70? I don't know. When was the factory actually like abandoned? When did Edwin explode?
When did the factory burn down?
No, when did the audio log with the mimic and the new legs and stuff like that? When would that have been? The latest that Edwin could have received an order to change away from the springlock suits.
I don't know. I assume that the Mimic 2 hasn't just been running around the factory for like multiple years, right?
I mean, so 75 is when David died, and 79 is when the game takes place.
Yeah.
And
so I don't think
there has to be
like, it's been like at least a year for the M2 stuff to happen, right?
Yeah, like just realistically, like there are still employees around most likely when David dies, so we have to have him descend into paranoia and fire everyone.
Hmm.
And that is probably at least a year. But then the place is already pretty darn run down-ish. So I don't know. Maybe 77
Yeah.
as like a rough. Anyways, the whole point being that Springlock suits weren't retired for like a decade.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting, the whole Springlock thing as well, because the whole there's an audio log with Fiona saying to Edwin, and presumably it's when she's alive. So I also don't know how many years the Fazbear project was going on, because it seems to be multiple years. But she says, "Oh, these new suits are crazy. They're a death trap. You know, someone spilled a can of pop and it nearly took his arm off. Like, you got to be careful. You can't rush these things." But then in a later log, he is talking to Fiona and he's like, "Oh, the new suits are working great. They're even working well with the water damage. I just got to warn Hen about their other weird behaviors or something." And it's like,
Wait, I do not know what thing you're talking about. Do you know where that is? Or what
oh
that
yeah,
is?
so yeah, in the logs, I'll get it up now. Let me
I know
see.
the one you're talking about with Fiona. That's what Mrs. Helpful says.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I'll get it up for you now. Springlock. It's a log called, I think, Springlocks. Fiona, the new Springlocks are working well, even with the water damage. They should be ready for the diner soon. I'll just make sure to warn Hen about some of the more ... odd behaviors they might have.
Oh, I didn't realize Hen's name was somewhere else.
Yep.
Fascinating.
There's a couple of different mentions of him. Yeah, I don't...
I wonder what the what? I
What
wonder
are
what
the
the
odd
other odd
behaviors?
behaviors are.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. It's like, did the bite of 83
Biting a
happen?
kid's head.
Yeah, what does that mean? That's the only thing I can think of it being. Like, but also the prototypes that he's talking about aren't... I assume they're not the ones that are made for, like, Spring Bonnie. Like, Spring Bonnie is different
No.
looking than the ones that he
So
makes.
here's what I'm maybe thinking. But you can rebut me because I haven't said this to anyone, and I'm sure there's going to be evidence against it. So we have Henry created Springlock suits, the technology. Henry, Edwin, and William become quote unquote business partners, even though William clearly sees Edwin as like a lesser, and he now has access to their like proprietary Springlock technology, which doesn't do well with water, and both companies are probably figuring that out relatively simultaneously. And then Edwin gets a change order from Henry saying, "We're not doing spring locks anymore. Can you change all the designs?" And I think also, um, because uh, the audio log, Edwin says these are all Fiona's original designs. I don't care. I'm not changing them. I'm thinking, gosh darn it, chat, Henry.
Henry's in the chat, please.
You
Henry,
just
Emily,
can't- you
and
just
William
can't-
Afton.
You just can't make a mistake in a
No,
live
you're
stream. You
dead.
just can't. So he says, "I'm not changing any of them." So I was thinking that maybe because you see a lot of characters that obviously don't get used in any of the FNAF locations in that same way, like you're like inside a crocodile spring lock and stuff like that. The characters that they originally wanted were like their core four characters: the chicken, the dog, the gator, and what's the other one in the story time? I forget.
The dog, the
The
dog,
fox.
the gator, the
Yeah.
fox, yeah.
Yeah, I think that there was originally those four characters, and then Henry sends, and he's like, "We don't want those four characters. We want instead a bunny and a bear, and we want to move away from the dangerous springlock technology." And then Edwin is like, "No, what? They can't do that. They can't change anything. The designs were finalized, and everything was finalized, and so instead he wants to try and fix springlock technology and stick with the original four characters that were promised because they were Fiona's designs." That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
Can you see my screen
thought,
unwithered?
Yeah, I can see. This is riveting.
I
gameplay.
just fucking missed it. It's right there. I just fucking missed the loading zone.
Riveting.
Edwin, why? Edwin, no.
My interpretation of the whole thing was that Fiona designed either those Springlock versions, or she was... Yeah, I guess she designed the Springlock versions, right? Because we don't see, like... Because at first I was like, oh, she designed the kind of the way she did Chica. She designed like costume versions of the other characters, and we just don't see them. But I think it makes more sense that she designs, like Bubba and Monty and Fredbear and Spring Bonnie as those looks, and then I think it's a tactic by Fazbear. I think they're intentionally screwing over Edwin to ruin his business, that they wait till last minute and then they go, actually, we don't need any of that work that you've just done and spent all that money on, intentionally to put him behind and make it impossible to take up the orders. And I think the new designs that they're talking about, the ones that he calls creepy, are the classics. And that he eventually gives in and does start working on the classics for them. But I don't know, because it's weird. It's weird that Chica's involved at all, considering she's like Chica's Party World, and that's not, as far as we can tell, it's not a Fazbear entity. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Were you there though? Yeah, you were there when somebody in chat was talking about, the profits chart that we used to extrapolate that Fiona probably died in 73 and David in 75. Somebody in chat was saying that since that chart is in the room, that's like all Chica memorabilia and like other things related to Chica's Party World, that maybe that is actually not about company-wide profits, but about Chica's Party World going under in 75, and then that character would have been up for grabs by Fazbear. Maybe it was
But
interesting.
doesn't it say on that that it's specifically about MCM over the years?
Let me take a look because there's two different profit charts.
Oh,
and I
there's
don't know
two
if that
different
was
ones?
this MCM or not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think so. Where's the
Because
thing
they
I
both
sent
show the
myself?
same kind of graph, right? There's definitely one of them that says
Yeah.
MCM on it. If not, I'm
So-
going crazy.
This is the one that's in the Chica room right here. And then the other one is this one, and I don't remember where this one is, but I know it's not in the Chica room.
Actually, if you could send it
oops.
into the general like side chat of the call, that would be great.
Oh, sure. No
Just so
problem.
I can look at them without having to move off of the gameplay stuff.
There's that.
Oh yeah, so that's indicating the same one, but yeah, that looks like it's the same chart being drawn on two different ones.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
If I'm not wrong. So like chat, you can see this now. We've got a kind of a up, then a low, then a big up, and then a big, like they have crash written here, and that says 1975 in the corner. But then we also have this one, and then we have an up, then a down, then a big up, and then a really big down by 1975. So they kind of look like they're the same graph to me.
Yeah,
And
they
this
do
is the
look.
Murray
I could
Costume
totally
Manor
see it,
net
an argument
earnings.
for them being the same. And one of them is just a hand-drawn crude version.
Warner Quinn, could Chica be owned by Edwin, then could be for lease?
It does say that all his characters are for sale or for lease.
That's
But
true.
would a place called Chica's Party World be able to get away with just leasing the character that they're using for their namesake? I think they'd have to buy her, right?
Yeah, well, the way I interpreted that, and it could be something, the other way around, that Edwin does own it, or Fiona owns it, or God knows what. I don't know, but the way I interpreted it was that the company Chica's Party World they're attempting to start this company, right? They're like, okay, we want to go
this
into
is the run.
business. Here we go, chat. Teacher's going to do it. But like, I took it as a new startup is coming into town. They want to run a business which is a themed mascot restaurant called Chica's Party World, and they have all the concept and they know what the marketing is going to be. But they hire, they contract Murray's Costume Manor for Fiona to draw up designs for a costume version of their already designed character Chica and her friends. And then what Milton says in the logs is, I'll pull them up here. He says, let me see, Chica's Party World. Dear Mr. Murray, Fiona is amazing. The client is very happy with her chicken designs. Their sales are through the roof. I just wish the costume looked a little bit more like Fiona's art. I'm worried about how it will work with kids. It gives me nightmares. Actually, so I'm wrong. That's saying that Fiona... So this client is just some company. They want to start a restaurant, but they go to Murray's Costume Manor and they go, design us a mascot that's a chicken.
Almost.
And
Almost.
Fiona draws it. and then Murray is responsible for making the costume, but it's kind of shit, and all the it's just
for
a bit
executing
scary.
beyond the prototype. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I could see it being the case. Also, chat wants you to turn T-Dreads down a little bit.
Okay.
That
T-Dreads the
that
game
either
or the voice?
the voice. That either Chica was an original character and then they sold her to Chica's Party World, as in like somebody was like, we want a restaurant, can you give us a character? And then she was already created, or they're saying like, we want a chicken character, can you give us some concepts? But either way, that it was Fiona's thing.
Considering the company is called Chica's Restaurants, that to me is like, they hardly went to Edwin, like just some guy went to Edwin first and was like, hey, make me a character, and then he registered an LLC in the name of a character that Fiona came up with. They say their sales are through the roof, implying they existed as an entity before she created this. I think what's more likely is Chica's Restaurants is an existing entity which has Chica's Party World, but Chica's Party World is just like a regular roller disco where they have a character called Chica and she's like the mascot, right? Like Ronald McDonald.
Yeah.
But they don't have like a person walking around dressed up as Chica. But with the advent of Fredbear's Family Diner and other such mascot restaurants becoming popular, they then say, okay, well, we should have a mascot character too, so we'll hire the mascot costume guy to make us a Chica costume. So we're going to rebrand with all the new drawings and stuff. So, in the set, maybe they've been around since the 60s or the 50s, and they go, okay, we're stepping into a new decade. We're going to hire MCM to rebrand our whole thing, basically, and make us a costume. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. So, like, Chica was a character and an animatronic not made by Murray Co., and then when they wanted to have a costume version for someone to wear to keep up with Fazbear, they hired Murray.
I think she probably wasn't I don't think she was an animatronic. I think she was just, like, on the walls, there were drawings of this character called Chica. In the way that there's like the Hamburglar isn't walking around McDonald's, he's just drawn on the wall, you know what I mean? But it would be like if Chuck E. Cheese then got super popular and McDonald's was like, well, we got to make sure Ronald McDonald is like hanging out with the kids, so we got to hire MCM to make us a Ronald McDonald costume, and a rebranding where we use the same name, but they're drawing us new drawings, because every now and then companies will have an update to their look, they'll change things around. You'll get a new logo, you'll get new character art, whatever. I've got a super chat here from Po7470EXE. The tragedy of David is him being kidnapped. That's interesting. I've heard some people saying he's kidnapped. Do we know for sure that he's buried anywhere or that he's 100% dead?
No, I guess we don't. I don't think we know a whole lot about his death in general.
He's also probably a ghost.
But a lot of people think that he's kidnapped
right?
by William.
Some people do. I mean, he could be kidnapped. It would be weird, I think, with all the implications of his, like, possession or his presence in the building post-death. If he's kidnapped, he would have to grow up to be Michael. And if he grows up to... Because he would be as old as Michael. And if he's old as Michael, or if he becomes Michael, then he has to be William's biological son because he looks exactly like William. So then we have to say that Will Cuck is true.
Although, kidnapping... In FNAF, we usually use it to mean kidnapping to, like, raise or something like that. But kidnapping can also just mean kidnap to murder and just murdering them at a secondary location. So maybe that's what they mean as well. He could still be dead, just dead far away, and William's doing in order to take the company. Yeah,
I mean, I just don't see that as... That's not William's, like, MO. He always kills them in the place. And I actually think, and I'll get to this next super chat here from Morse in just 2 seconds, but I think that I really like the idea that if he did kill David, we are using this game to sort of throw out the whole idea of it being related to specifically the crying child's death or trying to give him a particular motive around remnant or immortality or whatever. And if it's just purely the idea that he killed David, that we are pre-establishing that William has a very, very fragile ego and will kill his business partners when he feels threatened by them or wants something from them. So we would have the exact same, and it would actually be very, very one-to-one if we have this idea of William either using his car or driving in his car to Murray's killing David and driving away and either making it look like a hit and run or doing something else and then driving off. And then years later, he does the exact same to Henry. Is he kills his daughter, he ruins his life, he ruins his business as well with the MCI. You could argue that's what the MCI was a way of ruining Fazbear Entertainment. Maybe, I don't know why he would do that, because he seems to be very involved in it in this version of events, but we could potentially
but
see
at that point he might have been
make
kicked out
Afton.
for suspicions.
Yeah, if Charlie dies first, then maybe at that point he's getting
Alright,
maybe they're shifting him into Afton Robotics, or maybe he wants Afton Robotics to be more popular, because he's going, then
maybe.
I'm just gonna freak out. So Morse,
Although,
thank you very much. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. Just one thing on that. I like that a lot, although if William kills the kid. But I don't particularly think that there's a lot of evidence for it besides him having motive. Like, there's no real thing that points to, like, William being in the right place at the right time or ever having contact with David, besides that kind of loose connection of there being a drawing of David holding Fazbear-colored balloons. But those also are just balloons in the primary color. So I don't think it's super likely, but if it is likely, I really like that.
Yeah,
that
I will
train
say
of thought.
I will say that drawing being of the two balloons in the same orientation, in the same shape as the Fazbear logo is interesting. I know that it's like red and blue balloons, like there's red and blue balloons everywhere. There's a red and blue balloon on his cake, but there's also a yellow balloon there. But if we say that, okay, that might be intentional, I think it's that plus the purple hat he's wearing is something interesting. But yeah, beyond that, like if there was a drawing of him holding the hand of like a purple man or whatever, I'd be like, okay, for sure.
Yeah.
I think this is something that I have felt with the Steel Wool games in general, and why I've generally avoided talking about them on my channel up to this point. The way the Steel Wool era is doing its story and the way it's handling its reveals, I genuinely don't believe that it's a case of, with the pieces from this game, we can figure it out. I think there's still stuff to be told to us that we need to be told to know the whole puzzle. Like, we don't have all the pieces yet. We won't have all the pieces yet until at the very end of the series they go, and now Steel Wool will hand the series to another company and a new era will begin. We're not going to have that like conclusive enough stamp on the franchise to say, yeah, I 100% know all the pieces. Because if you had asked us in Ruin, oh, what do you think about Fiona being the mimic? We would have been like, who? Why are you not bringing up Fiona and David being M2 and her being M1? We'd be like, what are you talking about? That's we didn't know any of this stuff in this game. So very likely in the next game, there's going to be some other huge reveal that we didn't expect whatsoever, and we wouldn't have ever been able to guess. So a lot of the stuff, when people are saying there's no evidence for saying that Afton did any of this stuff, he's going to be God. For people saying there's absolutely zero evidence of David being, Dave or being Gregory or whatever, I think there is some evidence. But what I will say is what I think T-Dreads and I are doing, rather than theorizing in the way we do about the old games, like with like Sister Location saying, oh, it's probably taking place on this date because of these clues. What we're more so doing is trying to predict what the story is leaning towards, like, or what we're headed towards in terms of a narrative. Because, yeah, we don't have all the pieces. We don't have all the evidence. So we are making logical leaps and assumptions, but we're more so saying, okay, what's coming next based on what we've just been told? What are they trying to allude towards in the future?
I have a response to that, but I keep not letting you read your super chat, so I should
that's all good.
let you do that.
I'll read it now. Morse, thank you very much. And December 1st says the party would be this weekend. That email is sent on Monday. The cancellation email is December 6th, Saturday. The party was cancelled at 4 p.m. The clock in the recording shows 10 p.m.
Ooh.
Interesting. So yeah, the December 6th Saturday, the only year that makes sense is 1975, which would make David be born December 6th, 1970, if he's 5 when he dies, based on how many film reels there are. The clock in the recording, that's quite interesting. I would be curious if the clock in the actual room is also 10 p.m. and Steel Wool just didn't think of changing the asset before they, like, quote-unquote shot that film reel, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, I'll try and pull up my gameplay footage and see if I can find it.
Yeah, if in the game it is 10 p.m., then I would say they probably just forgot to alter the asset. But it is. I mean, you could also argue though.
To what?
to alter. You know, you could argue though against my point of what I just said. You could argue, why would they not think to set the clock to the time the party was supposed to be when they're making that room? You know, like why would they? Unless it's just a generic asset.
I notice a lot of clocks in the area are just set to a time, and it doesn't reflect at all the time that it's actually supposed to be, which is really interesting to me. It kind of bothers me. I don't know why they wouldn't have the clock move at all.
Samuel Doherty says, the reason the Vengeful Spirit speaks through the mediocre melodies in UCN is because they're the only MCM original characters. David is the Vengeful Spirit. Yes, thank you, Samuel. This is something we were talking about for the last couple of days. I don't know, Candy. I'm trying to remember who was on what calls because people kept dropping in and coming in and out and whatever. But this is something that I genuinely feel is, in terms of evidence, is stronger than anything to do with like the crying child being made into a, you know, whatever. There's a lot in this game, and I'm not talking about evidence from UCN working in favor of stuff to prove about this game. I'm talking about the other way around, where things in this game make sense if you're trying to make the implication that David is the Vengeful Spirit, right? So stuff like we've always wondered what the I was the first, I have seen everything. We've always wondered what that line means within the context of UCN, because first of all, if some people take it as she's the first victim that William kills, so it's MCI before Charlie. Some people take it that way. I think we have a lot of evidence to say that Charlie is the first victim of William's murder, at least in the original series. But it's also like, then people argue, okay, well, Chica the character, and Matt Pat said this in his big timeline video, was Chica the character was invented first before Fredbear and Spring Bonnie and all that. And we find out in this game that that's true. But the question
I know Gibby's not here, but that's definitely what he said as well. He was like, I'm vindicated. She's the first character.
Yes. But what's interesting is, in context of that game, like, whoop-de-doo, yeah, you were the first character. Why are you telling William that? Like, what is that relevant to William's hell to be like, by the way, I'm older than Fredbear? Like, who cares? Like, what has that got to do with anything? You know?
Chica is also the only one that notes that she has actually seen the one you shouldn't have killed.
Yes, she says, I have seen him, the one you shouldn't have killed. But if we take it in context of she was designed by Fiona and was at the factory, and David is the one you shouldn't have killed, then we actually have a reason for her to say that line. I was the first. I have seen everything. I was the first Freddy's character to be present in the location where the one you shouldn't have killed was killed. And that would then directly tie into William being the one who killed David. We also have the fact that the character, like Samuel Doherty here is saying, speaks through the mediocre melodies. The mediocre melodies are specifically Henry's creations. They're littered everywhere throughout the game. Like, they are in every fucking room. There's a mediocre melody.
It's like an old, like, fan favorite fan fiction to be like, maybe she speaks, the Vengeful Spirit speaks through the mediocres because it's their favorite cast of characters, which does make a lot of sense for Dave.
Yeah, and
David.
T-Dreads,
Man, I keep saying
also,
David wrong.
I know, yeah. T-Dreads pointed it out as well, that the way the mimic like voice works is it's the regular character's voice and the mimic's voice happening at the same time, overlapped with one another. That's how the Vengeful Spirit speaks, is it's the character's voice and the Vengeful Spirit's voice talking at the same time.
Alright, Chad, I'm giving up on the speedrun. I'm not cracked enough. Sorry.
Alright, we're done.
But that's a good point, and if you wanted to go that direction, which, by the way, I don't want to go that direction unless I have to, but if you go that direction, you definitely want William to have killed David.
I mean, I think if Scott was thinking in that way, and he was trying to imply that, he wouldn't put us in another, like, situation where, but, like, because, you know, some people think it's, like, bite victim ToyShink, which, if they're the same person, then you can also explain the Golden Freddy connections. But anyway.
Oh, yeah.
And the FNAF World connections and stuff. But if you think bite fiction ToyShink before this game came out, then you always have to come up with, like, well, William took him out of the hospital and put him into a Springlock suit, or he's... Alright, I'll see you, T-Days. We're about to shatter Candy again. Bye.
Shattered Candy.
Shattered. But, yeah, that was like a an issue of Bite Victim ToyShink is you have to kind of maneuver a scenario where William kills Bite Victim, whereas so Scott wouldn't put us in that situation again where it's like, oh god, you know, like did he act, you know, if this was
Can you
the
walk
case,
me through?
Yeah,
You were saying there's a lot of connections to David and Golden Freddy.
sorry, so I was saying Dave and Golden Freddy and UCN, and if David and Dave are the same person and Dave is Golden Freddy, then if you say David is ToyShink, then you can still explain why Golden Freddy is in the cutscenes, because he's the recreation of David. So it would still be technically Bite Victim, the one you shouldn't have killed, but it's Bite Victim is also David. So all the connections to the mediocre melodies and everything also still work. So they're both basically the
But you
same
weren't saying there's any
character in that
Golden Freddy
scenario.
connections in The Secret of the Mimic to David.
Other than the fact that the tiger in the basement is exactly like Golden Freddy. Like the fact that it teleports around and all that kind of stuff, and it's not seemingly tethered to an actual physical costume. Because we don't have any reason to believe that the tiger ever had a physical suit, right? Like, we never... We just know it's a toy. Though it does actually make us think, that's interesting. The Help Wanted 2 plush had, like, meat inside of it.
Flesh in it? Yeah.
Do you remember that? Yeah. So I don't know what the hell... I don't know what the hell that's supposed to imply.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that too recently. I don't know, I've been thinking, so in my mind, personally, when I think of the new era of FNAF, I kind of consider Secret of the Mimic now, Ruin, Help Wanted 1, and Help Wanted 2 to be kind of like the holy grail of lore, and then Security Breach is kind of like the wild child, where it's kind of like FNAF 4 was to the original trilogy, where like when you don't like something in it, it's just so easy to be like, well, it was retconned out because of Dream Theory, or it was retconned out because Steel Wool and Scott weren't communicating, and so everything you don't like in there isn't related. So I was thinking a lot about Help Wanted 2 and about the Princess Quest ending, and because it feels like you could really easily divorce a lot of this new story from the old story and be like, oh, like we can see all these homages and like, oh look, this is where some of the original characters came from, but this is really kind of a new storyline about the Mimic, and it'll probably end in trying to put the White Tiger David to rest and all the other characters are gone. But it kind of bothers me that there's like this whole, like, what does the Mimic have to do with the MCI still? Does all of it still hold true? That the Mimic is mimicking William now? And I think, yes. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Did I just ramble?
No, no. I know exactly what you mean. Sorry, I saw that another super chat came in, so I'll just very quickly read it because we'll talk about it in a little bit. Please watch Room for One More's latest theory for connection between Yellow Eyes / the Mimic. It's seriously compelling. Okay, we might do that in a bit.
Oh, we were just talking about that.
Oh, that was, T-Dreads was saying that, wasn't he? He was like, it's like 14 Theory, but like expanded or something. Was that the one he was talking about?
He was talking about the Midnight Motorist theory specifically, but I think they have two videos, and apparently they're both bangers, so Room for One More.
Okay, we'll have a look at that. I think we also have some connections we were making earlier ourselves about that those two characters. But yes, thank you very much. I will absolutely have a look at that, and we can talk about it in a bit. But to what you were saying about how does all this relate back to the original story, you know, because sure, okay, David is the Crying Child, or Crying Child becomes remade into David, or whatever. What does that mean for, like, the MCI, or Baby, or anything about the original series? The way I look at it is, we sort of have this thing now where this story is being set up here in 79. It may push some of the other events up, you know, along. It may kind of brush against them, that you know, maybe we've got this Dave connection going on, maybe they're related to one another, and maybe that just sort of sets off some of the events of the MCI saga. But I think the MCI saga is itself contained. It's not necessarily like William was killing the MCI for the Mimic, or William built the Fun Times because he wanted the Mimic to do something for him, or whatever. I think we might just be connecting it just to that little bit of thread that we have there left from not really understanding what FNAF 4 is about. And because FNAF 4 is sort of the genesis for everything else that goes on, we then are just letting this new saga, which is picked up in the future after the other one finishes, we're just kind of connecting those two so they don't feel like completely disparate stories. That we don't just have the MCI saga, it goes on and then it finishes, and then the Mimic saga, and they're completely unrelated. It's tying them together a little bit. We're putting those strings there so that it feels important, because I think that's something as well as a lot of the fans of the old stuff can quite easily dismiss the Mimic saga up to this point, because it's like, yeah, I kind of just like talking about the old games, and I don't know, the new stuff is unrelated. I mean, guilty, like not that I have any sort of issue with the new games or not liking them or anything like that, but I think I've been very much still wanting to figure out the old games. I'm still very much a fan of those old stories, and because of the way I look at how they're... You go ahead.
Oh yeah, it's exactly what you're talking about. It's not that I don't like the new stories, it's just that what I care about in the new stories is the stuff that relates to the old stories. So it's like I don't care that much about the Mimic, I care about what the Mimic has to do with the MCI, if that makes sense. But yeah.
But I think that's... See, from having now played this game and seeing kind of what they're trying to set up and feeling like they're heading in this new direction of Fiona's the new bad guy of the series. Like she's the top dog, she's the Mimic. I mean, she's kind of like not the bad guy, she's kind of got a tragic story, but also is the orchestrator of events. I'm sort of now hooked on, well, where's she going? What's up with this M2? Like, where's all this headed?
No, I feel the exact same.
Yeah, so I think for me it's actually been good, because as far as removed as it is from the original series, I think those little nuggets that they've tied in with have hooked me to be kind of like, okay, you got me. What are you doing here? What's going on? And I think the instinct, and I definitely had it when I finished it first, and I'm not, this might sound condescending or something, I'm not intending to sound that way, but I think it might be the wrong way, or not the way Steel Wool is looking at it. I don't think Steel Wool is looking at the Mimic saga as a way to like solve stuff about the MCI saga. I think they are trying to tell their own story, or Scott is trying to tell this new story, but he's filling in little pieces of it. Not that it changes everything about the old games, but that, okay, now we have this kind of extra context that like actually the Mimic story is much more important to the wider story than we realized. That the other story, you can still tell that story self-contained, pretty much, but it's just that catalyst for it beginning, that's where the Mimic comes in, and then it kind of goes away for a while and then comes back. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember if what I said was clear or not beforehand, but kind of like what I am thinking in relation to that is with this story, I specifically, like, my actually inclination is probably to do more of what you were talking about, is to like view it as its own self-contained story. And so I see Secret of the Mimic as kicking off the events that are going to happen in Security Breach and Help Wanted, but I don't actually see them very much as kicking off the events that happened in 1 through 6, which I think is where most other people are right now, is that they feel like it is kicking off a lot of stuff that happened there, whereas I feel like it's tangentially related because obviously of like the characters and the fact that Edwin was feeding it to there, but not in this like same like supernatural and AI vein necessarily. And then all I need is for the Mimic to have its like a little bit of a catalyst where it starts mimicking Afton, which can still be it scanning in all of that stuff in Help Wanted 1 that we used to think before, we had Secret of the Mimic and stuff like that. But I feel like I would actually be super, super content with that. But I am less content with that when I think about Help Wanted 2 and how Help Wanted 2 makes us feel like the Mimic also cares about the MCI more than it should if it's just a story about the Murrays, if that makes sense.
Yes. Okay. So I apologize. I misinterpreted what you had said before. So yeah, that makes sense. I know what you're saying. You're kind of like, why are we bothering to tie it back into the MCI? Because like in that case, then it's like, why, if this is a new story, why are we even making these connections? I would agree in the sense that it's a weird choice. I think this is the other thing about like people who are thinking the David and Dave and connections. It's not necessarily that we want it to be this way, or that we like it that way, or that we think like, oh, this is so cool, Scott's making all these connections. I don't know, because again, I can have my mind changed based on execution. I'll say it's definitely interesting. It wouldn't have been where my mind would have went to do that. But my thing is
that it's like the undeniable pattern. Like you can't just not.
I can't that's my thing. Is I'm looking at it and I'm going, why in God's name would they have? Sorry, I shouldn't. I know it's a more Irish people.
Bringing
sorry,
God's name into FNAF right now.
This is sorry. This is. My dad was talking about this the other day. This is like an Irish-ism. We don't have the same kind of. I don't know. We don't protect the language around God and stuff like that as much. So I apologize if I've offended anybody by taking it in vain. Didn't mean to. But sorry. Why would the developers? Why would Scott be like? And then, at the end of the very secret ending, they walk into the FNAF 4 bedroom. You know, like, I know it's not literally the FNAF 4 bedroom because it doesn't have the 2 doors and stuff, but it's got the purple robot. We have the purple phone from earlier. We've got the closet at the end of like, the direct in front of us looks like the opening screen of the FNAF 4 bedroom. I don't know, from the point of view of the developers, why you do that if you're not trying to draw some sort of connection. And some people are going to say parallels, but there's a difference to me between parallels of like, because you know what? If we just say that David Murray was a young kid who had a plushie toy that he was obsessed with, he has an inventor father, and he's obsessed, and he's scared of animatronics, I'd be like, you know what? Those are parallels. Those are like almost character archetypes within FNAF. But it's when you put him in a black and white striped shirt and then you connect him to the character Gregory, who's eating a Fredbear head on a lollipop stick and is drawn to look 1-to-1 in a guidebook to the crying child. That's when I start to go, you know, my alarm bells go up and I go, what are we doing right now? And all that we've been saying are extrapolations. And again, I'm not saying anyway, because people in chat are saying like, you know, this makes sense. You're trying to prove things with connections. You're trying to use them as proof or whatever, or you're trying to see, you know, you're just running away with your speculations or blah, 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 blah. That's absolutely what we're doing. That's 100%. I say we, I mean like T-Dreads and I and whatever, anyone who believes this. That's 100% what we're doing.
That's a totally fair thing to do if you think that you can't know the story until Steel Wool is done, is to say, I think that these connections are important, and I'm going to wildly theorize about how they could be important until, you know, the next game comes out.
That's like, but I mean, let's look at the facts, like in terms of how the previous games have done. This is what like John FNAF game theory have been doing for years. You know what? When Gregbot came out, everyone went, ha ha ha, stupid game theory. There's no robot children in FNAF. You're idiots. This is so lame. That's in the books. And now we have a game where the like secret ending is a child robot coming out of a closet and getting a story read to him as he goes and lies down in bed with his plushie child and gets into bed and pulls it up over him, like pulls his blankets up over him. And it's like, as soon as we see a little robot child, then I suddenly go, okay, so that's not off limits. And now all the evidence that they had been, at the time, wildly speculating about, and you know, when you go back and look at those videos, it was very much a case of like, you know, we think this is what the next game is going to say. You know, it's not even like this is what this game is saying and is definitively going to prove. I think what we're looking at is like the developers are sprinkling all these little connections in, and we're saying, what could these possibly mean? Well, right now, the best guess we have is this. And then going from that kind of wild speculation, working backwards and seeing how they might make that work. So when I say stuff like, William and Fiona had an affair and they had the child, or William made a deal with Fiona to make himself into an AI robot or whatever, there's no evidence of that whatsoever in the game. There's no like secret email between Afton and Fiona where they're going like, I miss you so much, my love, or I can't wait for you to make me into a robot, you know, none of that stuff. But what I'm saying is that would be a way that I could see them going. I could see that being the reveal is in the next DLC or game or whatever. We've got, you know, an audio log of Afton, you know, and workers opening up the Murray's bunker and the prototype Freddy's, and he walks in and, you know, Fiona, it goes like, online, coming online. And he's like, well, hello there, who are you? And she goes, Afton, I remember you. You know, and he goes, interesting, you know? Like, I could see, you know? Like, I could see that, you know? And I'm not saying that's what they're going to do, but I'm going, okay, where do we think we're headed? And how would that work to get there? So it's pure fan fiction. But as Gibby said, all FNAF theories are just fan fiction backed up by textual evidence.
And Gibby's always right.
Gibby's always right. That's what we've learned. I apologize. I just went on a big long rant there, but
no, that's good. So, I appreciate that because it does, especially because I came so late and I wasn't there for when you guys were like coming up with the theories and stuff like that, and so I'm kind of with chat a lot when I hear you guis talk, and I'm just like, what? How did we get?
Oh, we dropped a lot of viewers. People hated that. I'm sorry, chat. I someone sorry in chat. Someone went, "You're very good at turning me on." That's good. That's very funny.
Oh my gosh.
That's so stupid. Yes, but sorry, you were saying you're kind of on the side of chat of like, what are you talking about? This is insane.
Yes, a little bit, but also, like I don't think I view the series crazy different from everyone else, but like when I like come to a new game or something like that, what's important to me about it isn't necessarily always the same as what's important to everyone else. Is what I'm noticing is that it's not like I'm fundamentally opposed to FNAF going in absolutely wild and ridiculous directions, so much as I'm just less interested in it. Like I don't actually care too much.
Yeah, no, I mean,
like
yeah,
it doesn't change too much either. It's kind of like, I don't know, like the Christian argument around like, did God predestine everything or do we have free choice? It's like, did Fiona predestine everything or did we all have free choice? It didn't actually change the order of events or what happened. It just kind of changed whether or not there was like kind of like a guiding hand with it, or if it was all like a cause and effect type of chain. And so I don't know. It doesn't it doesn't perturb me too much.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I just, yeah, I agree. I think I also, the fact we have a robot child in this game, I'm like, oh, that was the one thing I was kind of like happy the games didn't have from the books, you know? I'm not hating on the story or anything like that, but definitely wouldn't have been my direction to go in. Because anytime someone brought up robot kids, I was like, man, if they have Gregory's face peel off at the end of Secret of the Mimic 2 or whatever, and it's got a little like blinking lights inside of his head, I'm gonna go, oh god damn it. And that's basically what they did here. But I'm just like, okay, if this is the direction we're going, we're not in like serial killer is in a Chuck E. Cheese, you know, killing kids anymore. We're in sci-fi adventure, you know, robot land, and I'm going to treat it with that going forward. I'm going to look at that as, okay, this is the series, this is the franchise, this is the tone we're setting. How good are they at achieving that? And I think it's been long enough since the old games that I've kind of, I mean, like, people, when we were playing the game, are like, we owe Sister Location an apology. Because, you know, when that game came out, I remember, like, I was only like 15 or 16 at the time. I went, this is crazy. What are we doing? This is all way too unrealistic to be happening in the 2000s or whatever. And now we've got a, like, multi-mile long underground network of sewer systems and lava generators or whatever, powering robot houses and giant factories with 20-foot tall spider robots in it. Like, you know, we've jumped a few sharks, let's just say, and that's where we are now. And it's also in 1979. My weirdest thing with this is, if you think about it in terms of the MCI happening after this game, it's kind of funny. It's so funny how low tech it is. Like, you know.
Yeah, dude, Edwin was so advanced. I can see why William was jealous. Yeah,
I'm surprised Fredbear didn't get up off stage and start like transforming into a giant like mech fighter or something. Like, I don't know. Like, at this stage, I don't see how we have any sort of resemblance of like Chuck E. Cheese left, because these robots are so advanced beyond anything. Like, I was looking at the prototype FNAF 1 designs in the basement, and I was like, man, Murray really fell off when he made these ones. These things have nothing on his other designs, you know?
That's really funny. Also, it's so funny that you say that, because you're absolutely right. And at the same time, like, when somebody is like, oh, you know, CC is a robot, or sorry, Dave Dave Afton is a robot, I'm like, oh my gosh, like he can't be that. Like that is my real human child who has to die in order to haunt things. But like
Yeah.
as soon as we're in the mimic era, it doesn't really matter to me that much that we're in the 1970s. I'm
Yes.
like, yeah, there can be robot children. We're in the mimic era. That's what a
They
mimic
feel
does. It
disconnected,
pretends
yeah.
to be a child. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it also like I feel like it took like 6 games and a DLC or something ridiculous like that for me to change the lens from being like we're in supernatural spooky Chuck E. Cheese to being like we're in like a very AI driven
Hmm.
story era. But apparently I'm there because the Secret of the Mimic, I wasn't really batting an eye at a robot child. I was like, this feels like what happens in this part of the
By that
franchise.
end of
Yeah.
that game, I was like, yeah, totally, absolutely. I mean, once you've got Big Top leaping through the air, and he's like 20 feet tall and made of steel girders, I'm going like, all right, anything after this, I will totally accept. It's almost
Do you think that
hilarious
Big
that
Top
we have. Is the mimic?
sorry. Yeah, is it M2 or M1 or neither?
I don't even know. I don't know. I guess M2. That's like the implication, right? Is like all of the things chasing us through the factory is M2, but he's not expanding his robot arms and crawling around that giant thing unless he's sitting inside of his head like in a cocoon or something and he's controlling him with big levers. Why didn't they have that blueprint?
Because we don't see anything crawl out of him like we do with Dolly, do we?
No.
No, I don't know. It bothers
yeah.
me. Like I'm kind of up in the air about whether or not he's a mimic or not. In the same way that I don't think the moon is. I'm like they just don't feel. They don't say anything similar, you know?
Yeah.
Well, no, they do
exactly.
because the mimic does say tickets please at some point, doesn't
it
he?
does. So it must be. I don't know how
Please.
it's him. Yeah, tickets, please. I don't know how it's him, but
But
it must be.
it's that Big Top doesn't say other mimic things, but the mimic does say Big Top things. So maybe I'm talking myself out of it.
Maybe. Yeah, I guess so. And I have a couple of different super chats I want to get to.
Bet.
So Jan Verb, this this is an interesting question. Hi, hello. Did Secret of the Mimic give you new ideas, brackets, or change some of the old ones concerning your reboot series? That's a two-part question. Also, have you seen Dual Process's community post? I think they got the story and timeline almost perfect. I haven't seen the Dual Process community post. I don't know if you want to look that up and have a look while I'm answering the other one about the
Yes,
reboot.
but I'm also gonna grab a snack while you're answering, and it'll be like 30 seconds.
Perfect. Okay, I can yap for the entire FNAF community, so it's all good. So, did Secret of the Mimic give me new ideas or change some of the old ones concerning my reboot series? Short answer, no. Long answer, I had an idea already where I was going to include / allude to the Mimic saga in the reboot series. There's a little bit, I'll say, in the FNAF 2 video, just a very small bit of alluding to it, but it's also because we're in this sort of in-between era of not knowing what that full story is and not knowing where it's going to lead or where it's going to conclude. I think it wouldn't make sense for me to try and work it in based on half understandings, because sometimes you'll see I think it's usually evident when you see something like a sequel comic series or a tie-in, novella or something to a TV show or a movie that is working off of assumptions about what the future of the franchise is going to be. And that might sound a little vague, but say, for example, in the 2000s, we had the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, and they made an MTV show which was animated, which was supposed to be like a sort of a semi-sequel, like spiritual successor to the Sam Raimi movies. And they just sort of picked up where the first one left off and then kind of made up new lore as they went. And they were like, okay, and this is what Doc Ock is like, and this is what the Lizard is like, and this is whatever is like. But the problem with that show, not that it's a problem with the show, but the weird thing about watching that show is it immediately becomes defunct when you watch Spider-Man 2. Because Spider-Man 2 obviously isn't going to take that into consideration. So I think it would make my reboot series feel a little weird if I started working in, like, you know, for example, God David or God Mimic or God Fiona, or I try and like weave it in now when we don't know the full story and immediately make it look stupid and defunct as soon as the next Steel Wool game comes out. And I think it would kind of taint my Reboot series and kind of defeat the purpose of what I was trying to do, which was make all of the connections, like the whole thesis of it is, what if FNAF was planned from the beginning? And I can't follow that idea if I don't know what the end is yet. You know, it's not how it works. And I think then I'd be working from this weird midpoint. So short answer, no. Long answer, I have a little bit of allusion to it in the fact that, yeah, maybe an Edwin exists in my world, or maybe a Mimic thing is going on somewhere else, but it's not tied in directly to the whole thing. So the reboot of the original series is the main focus, and I want to make that as strong as it can be on its own. And I think even the stuff that I established in the first video would be weird if I started now to change everything about it based on Secret of the Mimic. So that's a very long answer to an interesting question. I think Candy has sent me the timeline from Dual Process, but I'll quickly answer the next question, which is from Morse again. Thank you very much. Is there a reason why the theme of Chica's cutscenes in UCN repeat the motif of the security breach theme?
Oh, are we talking about Chica's high school years? And the music in the background?
Oh.
Because somebody recently made a video about I can't even remember what it is now because I've been in the cave for so long, but about like repeating motifs in different FNAF songs, and there was definitely a lot that had to do with Midnight Motorist, but this might be what they're talking about because that's the only motif that I know of.
I'm not actually familiar with that, Morse, but if there is something there, that could be something I look into when I'm gonna make my eventual Secret of the Mix video. I'm probably going to call it a predictions rather than a theory, because I think people are getting annoyed about the things that I'm saying without the context of I don't actually think that there's a lot of evidence for what I'm talking about in the game. There's just certain connections which we're then extrapolating conclusions from. And then Kettle God says, is it weird that Steel Wool added multiple FNAF World enemies as costumes / other things, like Bubba, who is Bub the animatronic, the Kraken, as I assume the octopus guy, and then the security owl? I think, yeah, those things are quite relevant. And again, FNAF World is all about the crying child, and we're taking stuff from the crying child and we're putting it in this game. That to me is like, you know, very interesting to draw those connections. And if nothing else, I think it's actually quite strong evidence of the idea of, even if we unrelate it to David, in terms of David Murray, it's quite interesting to look at it from Scott's point of view, even if it is all parallels, to make all these parallels between Bite Victim, UCN, FNAF World, and Dave Murray, even if it's not literal in-universe connections, it might make us look at the one you shouldn't have killed argument again. We might need to re-examine that. But so yeah, Candy, you've sent this. Have you had a look at it yet?
No, actually, which I should have been doing the whole time you were talking, but I didn't even think.
That's totally fine.
This is all from Connie, by the way.
Okay, perfect. So I suppose I'll read this out, chat, and you can see what you think of it. Let's get some somethings in the chat. I don't know. What do we? Candy, you're the guest for today. What do you want in the chat? What do you want to throw in?
Wait,
here?
what? I can make them say anything? You
can make them say any. Spam it in the chat for for engagement, so we can spread this.
Say anything.
Say anything. Great. That's like the
I feel like
Dolly
I have the
joke.
power.
Puppet Cassidy.
Oh,
no.
Say hi, Dolly. Hi, Dolly. Never gets old.
Man, when I played through that, I had such a laugh with my chat, because we were already talking about how Edwin created like everything and was responsible for everything that we thought Henry was responsible for, and then in that part of the game, they literally say, recycling was a term coined by Edwin Murray. And I was like, motherfucker invented recycling. Like, he invented recycling in this universe as well? Is nothing sacred? And then it's like, puppet blueprints at the end of the game. And I'm like, okay, we're done.
Oh yeah,
Ken
wait,
controls
are those actually supposed to be about the puppet, or are they
I
just
think
supposed to be
so.
the puppet stage, as in because they have a whole wing that's dedicated to puppets?
It's right. It's in his main office
I
in
know,
his
right?
house, and they're right next to the alt Fazbear designs. Though I was thinking maybe the implication is because he's talking about them giving him new designs, and the alt Fazbear designs are in that same file. That maybe Henry
Oh,
did design the puppet and the classics, and that's what it's saying. Is the puppet was designed alongside the classics, so we're getting Puppet 85.
yeah, I'm gonna latch onto that because I like cannot handle the puppet not being designed by Henry. So
Yeah.
that'll be my
Yeah,
thing.
I
I'll
think
die on that hill.
it wouldn't be like a super mysterious file that we can't even read if it was supposed to be just like the Foxy hand puppets. I think that would be irrelevant.
Yeah.
So okay, so this is dual process theories. It's quite a long one, so I'll try and read it quickly. So okay, I'm having disagreements with people, and I figured out that it's because we all have a different view of the timeline. Here's my view for the record. Fazbear is one of MCN's contractees. There is no evidence whether they commissioned certain characters or leased certain characters, but we know Fiona did design sheets for Chica and Foxy, and FNAF 1 Chica looks closer to a design to her design than the roller skating Chica. Fazbear at some point commissioned a parade float of Monty, which implies that they either leased or owned him. Since we don't see Fredbear or Spring Bonnie outside of the spring locks, those seem to be commissioned and thus were William and or Henry's designs. Fiona dies
I'm
at
tracking. I
Fallfest.
didn't know that about the Monty though.
The Monty, that is good. Yeah, because there's a big alligator, but I should have clocked that was Fazbear making a Monty float.
Yeah.
And there's a cool diagram on the wall where they're showing all the different floats that they're making, and they're like focusing on finishing Fazbears, which I think ties into the idea that Edwin is being duped by Fazbear into thinking that like, oh well, if I make friends with them, everything's gonna be okay. So 2, Fiona dies at Fallfest. She wasn't supposed to be there, so something sus was happening. She also says that she feels like something could possibly go wrong, and she's going to be away for a few weeks. So
That is the
something
field.
That's the field. Yeah, she's got a bad feeling about this, or she's having an affair with William, and he lures her there. No, I'm joking.
Oh my gosh.
And 3,
crashing out.
yeah, no, I know. I mean, honestly, I was also thinking about it from a meta perspective, and it is pretty bad of us to imply that like the first like very influential female character in FNAF is also an adulterer. It's a terrible first impression to think.
Right, but
Really
FNAF
bad.
is full of twists like this, so it's not the end of the world.
I know we had Vanessa, but she gets cut out so much that it's like, oh well.
Vanessa's actually a minor character.
Yeah,
in the story
yeah,
that she's a main character.
Yeah, she's like she's like set dressing. 3, Edwin makes Mimic to babysit David because he's busy as hell. Yes, the Mimic One program
Wait, hold
starts
on.
copying.
Oh wait, never mind. Sorry, no, hold on. Keep going. Sorry.
Cool. The Mimic One program starts copying Fiona from the film reels. We then hear her voice in a secret tape. It's the exact same line and inflection she uses in a film reel. It could be doing this to calm David down or to try to appeal to Edwin, since one of the binary messages reads, "Are we losing our home? Was I not good enough?" Which is interesting.
So that's
yeah.
talking about the one down in the basement in the dark area where
Yeah.
it's saying something exactly. Yeah. You're
This
not
is-
there for his birthday or whatever.
This is what I was trying to say earlier, in the fact that I actually am starting to not think that Fiona is possessing it at all. I think that the Mimic is around the house and is just a babysitter, and then starts watching those film reels and learns to be Fiona from them. And
That was my initial impression too, and I thought
Yeah.
only M2 was haunted. But I know that's
Yeah.
controversial too.
I would like to look at those binary messages again, because they are weird. One of them is just like, my home, and then the other one is, are we losing our home? Was I not good enough? Which I don't know what that means. I guess that's her reading the emails that Afton is sending them?
Yeah, that's what I
maybe?
was thinking as well with the foreclosure and Afton saying he'll buy the house.
Yeah. And then she says my home, which is weird. I don't know. Maybe that's supposed to be the moment the Mimic is like, oh, I'm Fiona. Edwin hears it copying Fiona's voice and freaks out, thinking she's possessing it. She's not. So that you can kind of have that up for debate, but that's kind of where I'm leaning as well. He starts obsessing over Fiona, thinking his wife is back, and his employees think he's either crazy or committing insurance fraud. Plus, he's not working on projects, so they're losing money, so the employees lose trust in him. True. Fiona starts mimicking Fiona more. Fiona being the F10N4 starts mimicking Fiona more because it's getting positive reinforcement, but it's not Fiona, and all it cares about is Edwin and David. She never seems interested in puppeteering or employee safety like the real Fiona did, only being the perfect wife and mother. Yeah. Something 1976 as a metaphor. But also, yeah, this was the other thing, as I'm like, he built, because there's the tape where she's obviously already the robot when he makes David the slide, and he's like, oh, take this for me and go make dinner, I gotta go back to work. And she's like, of course, dear. And I'm like, oh. He built his, like...
no, I got the same freaking vibes.
Yeah, he built it. He's he's built his perfect, like, trad wife. But also Fiona loved the coworkers.
Would kill on trad wife talk.
Yeah. But also Fiona loved the coworkers and called them her family. But Edwin at one point says Fiona was right. They're not my friends. Ah, that's a good catch. The Mimic One program is isolating him, and David try keep them to herself. That's good, because I took that as she never liked William or Henry. Same. Yeah, that's kind of how I took it, but it's interesting because he is talking about more than just William and Henry in that. So yeah, Fiona's...
You know, is that an audio log or is that
that's an
a
audio
text
log?
log?
Yeah.
It's an audio log, right?
Yeah.
William starts... this was the last project. No, this is about Fazbear. Last project I ever do for them. What the hell was that? They treat me like some contractor to crack a whip at. Oh, Fiona was right. They don't think of me as a friend anymore. This is the last project I ever do for them. I could definitely see that being about Fazbear only, but that is
Fazbear then. But
I like
that.
a theory where it's not just about Fazbear. I don't recoil at it.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so
Mimicare, that's
William,
crazy.
Mimicare. William starts a hostile takeover of the company. He begins rapidly poaching employees and trying to change the commission so they go over budget and overtime in order to get the land and animatronics by default. Yes, that's true. 8. This culminates in Henry and someone named Stan stealing Fiona's sketches and bolting out of MCM. Edwin freaks out and gets paranoid. I disagree that it's Henry. So there's an email with Stan, which is presumably, and I think it's a cool detail, because I also wanted to pay my respects to Stan's budget tech, which is in FNAF 6. So We Need to Go is the name of this, and it says, me and Stan are out of here. It's time to jump ship before things get ugly. I have a bunch of Fiona's character patterns, and Stan is taking what he can. Join us. With everything we know about the restaurant project, we can start our own machine shop. I genuinely
I agree. There's no reason to think that the other person is Henry.
Yeah, no. And there, I think there is more evidence in the game to say that Henry does not work with Edwin in MCM. He has the diner at this stage because of the line that the Springlock suits are nearly ready for the diner. I just better warn Hen about the problems. So why would you have to warn your employee about the problems about a thing going to a client? It doesn't. He owns the diner. Henry owns the diner at this stage. So whether or not he's as high up in the company as we thought he was, we don't know. But we'll see. It would be interesting if that's why Henry disappears for so long, is because he's just not there during the MCI. He's just like kicked out of the company by then.
I find it more likely, actually, and you might think that the other person is Ralph, but this audio log is really, or that text log, sorry, is really close with another text log that says, Ken, after one interview, they offered me the job. So I was thinking that maybe the person who wrote that is Stan, and then the person who wrote the me and Stan are out of here is Ken. So it's Ken and Stan going out together because that's we need to go and moving on. And I think you find them close together too. So it felt like they were related.
That's good. I like that. Yeah. Okay. I like that. So let's see. William starts a hostile takeover. Yeah, he starts to change the commission so they go over budget and over time in order to get the land and animatronics by default. This culminates in Henry and someone named Stan. No, so Edwin freaks out and gets paranoid. Could happen before 790. I don't know. David dies and F10N4 is a computer, so C's just like, make another one. Edwin realizes the real Fiona had emotional awareness, and he figures out that he's been playing dollhouse with AI or instead of grieving or raising his son or being a good boss. F10N4 retreats back into the computer and uses the endoskeleton as M2 to mimic David.
Interesting.
Edwin freaks out, beats the hell out of it, and locks F10. And yeah, this is what I was saying earlier. Okay, so Connie agrees with what I was suggesting earlier. Someone just sent me a super chat there. I don't know where that has gone. Give me 2 seconds. Streamlabs, scene collection, docs, chat. There we go. Sorry. So the Stan that steals Fiona's work is the guy that later creates Stan's budget tech from FNAF 6. They mention in the email that they could use her work to open their own tent company. Yes, Morse. That is exactly what I think it is.
WT.
I think we're getting a little bit into Prequelitis and the fact that everybody knows everybody and everyone worked in the same place and we're all friends and hung out, which is something that happens a lot in prequels where they suddenly start to explain stuff they don't need to, like, you know, for example, like the Star Wars prequels with the Solo movie, the Han Solo movie. It's like,
yes.
Han Solo got his gun and his ship and his jacket and his best friend all in the same week from one guy. And it's like, wait, what? He didn't. What was the rest of his life was really uneventful then. Everything happened to him in 1 week. So we're getting a little bit of that. Like, Ralph worked at MCM. Stan worked at MCM. Henry and Edwin and William were all besties and they were hanging out. And he built the spring locks and da-da-da-da-da-da. So Titan 29, the FNAF 6 location isn't under the Pizzaplex now. I imagine Megacat will take advantage of that and use it for their Frights adaptations.
Why isn't it under the Pizzaplex now?
I think maybe Titan is interpreting it that in Ruin and Security Breach we're in the prototype Freddy's, so that's not the same thing as the FNAF 6 location.
Oh, okay.
We see in Security Breach that the burners that Henry uses to burn the whole location to the ground are there. So I would actually imagine it's more so the case that Henry acquires, from having been a part of Fazbear, acquires the land under which the Proto Freddy's is built and uses that location to make the FNAF 6 location. So I think the FNAF 6 location is a converted Proto Freddy's. And that...
Yeah, I was gonna say, it doesn't look that much, because that thing under the ground looks a lot like FNAF 1, and the thing under Security Breach looks way more like FNAF 6, but that still doesn't mean they're not the same location.
I think the idea is, because William even says in the game, and it's something that I think people have kind of lost track of over the years, but he says in the game that it's not a real pizzeria. Like, Mike is like upgrading it and managing it and stuff, or we are, but at the end of the game, Henry says, "You have been led into a trap, a maze of sounds and smells of children you will never reach." And it's like, I think that's and the
there was
children
never anyone at this restaurant. Period.
Yeah, the children are little robots that are going around the vents, and I think the idea is that Henry built this location but didn't want to put anyone else in danger, because if you think about it, Henry's whole thing is, I want to stop everything, I want to end this, I want to end the violence. So it wouldn't make sense for him then to be like, well, I'm also going to endanger everyone that goes to my pizzeria because I'm going to include all of the animatronics that are haunted by vengeful spirits. You know, like, I'll bring Peanut Butter Sandwich is saying exactly what I'm thinking, and it does seem like you do actually get sued by people. Like, the lawsuits aren't fake. It could just be funny. Not See,
important,
this is the thing.
But
I wonder how much of the FNAF 6 game is meta and how much of it is actually canon. Because, like, for example, the first night you get there, there's a drawing of the rock stars on the wall, and so that's before you've bought any of the rock stars in game. So it's like, how do they get there? You know, Lefty's drawing is on the wall as well. We haven't bought Lefty yet. Is it just implying that, like, the managerial sections are just for us? And see, there is a back alley. That's a good shout, Smiley 404. There is a back alley, so it implies that it's above ground. That's interesting. I'd have to think about it a bit more. Maybe the idea is that the Proto Freddy's falls further down and the Snicks one falls down on top of it. I don't know.
So we're gonna have Security Breach 2, and we're gonna go down below the FNAF 6 location, and then we're gonna go below that, and we're gonna find sister location, and then we're gonna go below that, and we're gonna find FNAF 1. Wait, I might have had those in the wrong order. Whatever.
But to just finish the dual process stuff. So Fiona retreats back into the computer and uses the endoskeleton as quote M2, that's in quotations, to mimic David. Edwin freaks out, beats the hell out of it, and locks Fiona up. Mimic 2 has learned violence and it kills Edwin and killing other employees. I don't know if it kills Edwin, it might not. Also, the real Ghost David is actually in the basement and might still be there. I don't think anyone got Tiger Rock out. I will also say, this is something that's just, it's purely me being pedantic, but Tiger Rock is the name of the rock star glam rock version in the book. Tiger Rock is not the name of the plush. It's Tiger or White Tiger. So Tiger Rock is... It's just a thing we've used to refer. I'm not trying to correct Connie. I've noticed this a lot recently, and I'm like, am I going crazy? Am I saying?
No, that's
it's just
a
me
good
being
call out, I think.
Completely being pedantic. But I mean, Tiger Rock isn't
So
even
she
canon
thinks
anymore. So
she
we can
thinks
just call
neither
it.
of them are possessed. She thinks neither of them are possessed, and she also thinks there was never a successful M2. It was always M1 pretending to be M2.
Yeah. So this is interesting, right? Because this is what I was getting at earlier with when we were talking about Moon.exe, because we are playing a character who seems to view David as an other. So we're not like, we aren't M2 being like, I'm David, you know. We're M2 that then is pretending to be other things and is viewing David as something to be put back together. Like, our inner monologue says we're going to put him back together at any cost, right? So Fiona also says, and I think the implication might be that after Edwin refuses to make another Endo or another David, after he refuses to, I think Fiona might be the one that starts to make one. And the way she does that is by copying herself, because she says in one of the logs, I'll get it up now. Let me see. So this is what she sends to Edwin at the end of the game. She doesn't know, by the way, that Edwin is dead/missing. She thinks he's still in the house. So this is what she sends to Edwin when we're heading there, and we see it on his computer in the attic. Edwin, I am sending you a technician. He has your M2 blueprints as well as executive access. While the M2 began as a copy of my program, I believe it can become something more. It wasn't me, it was something different. Somehow it has been damaged and is malfunctioning. M2 can no longer be controlled, it will no longer listen, it mimics rage, it has done many bad things, no one who enters MCM is safe. Please reconsider, finish the program. So that, to me, the stuff like it will no longer listen and it began as a copy of my program, that's her saying my M2 and your M2 with the blueprints, I think what she's saying are different. And it used to listen to her, but for some reason from the start, see, there is the interesting thing if she says, I believe it can be something more, it wasn't me, it was something different. That's interesting.
Happy to clarify that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Gibby's in.
I
Gibby, get in.
I wonder if it's supposed
Actually,
to be
this isn't my stream. Can Gibby come in?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, 100%. Sorry. It wasn't me. It was something different. I wonder if that's sort of like hinting at a glitch trap thing. Like,
maybe. Although I do take the shoot. Hold on. No.
I left.
Gibby!
What's up? And you were like, I need to go to sleep early.
I know,
and you're
I know.
still going 2 hours later. What are you doing?
I know. I have a problem.
What I missed. Have we solved it?
Oh yeah, totally 100%
100%.
solved. We were so cool.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We were talking about who potentially the leakers are, and Candy had a really good connection between two of the logs, one of which is Stan, assumably of Stan's Budget Tech, talking about like, one of them is somebody and Stan talking about like, come jump ship with us. And there's another log, I think you said, Candy, it was...
Ken and somebody else is saying, Ken, after one interview, they offered me the job. There's a bonus if we get more Murray employees to jump ship. So they're buddies.
Oh yeah, so that's Ken. That's definitely Ken and Stan then. Yeah, 100%. That log comes first.
I was super unconvinced that Ralph was Ralph Phone Guy, because that's just a weird character arc for him. But then realizing that, like, okay, they used Stan on purpose to mean Stan's Budget Tech.
Yeah.
They must have, like, they wouldn't just introduce a second Ralph. So
Ralph,
almost
Ralph
certainly
is
the same Ralph.
100% the same Ralph. If he's not, I would crash out so badly, because I know, oh, we've got 10 Jeremys, ha ha ha. Ralph, the name reveal of Ralph was like one of the most impactful, important moments in the community in the last like 10 years. Like when we read the
True.
week before synopsis
So
and we
true.
went, oh my god, we have a name for Phone Guy after all these years. It's Ralph. That's so cool. If they reuse that name like a year later, I would freak out. I would be so mad. And I think the fact that Ralph is a springlock operator is important, because he's the one that's teaching springlocks in FNAF 3. So I think that's supposed to be our connection beyond everything else. I am actually less convinced now that he's the leak. But I also think he could be, because I could see him as being a manager, because Stan and Ken are leaving to make Stan's budget tech. They're not leaving to go to Freddy's necessarily. But
Well, no,
yeah.
but Ken is, because it definitely sounds like. Oh, no, sorry. This is the one to Ken. Ken, after one interview, they offered me the job. It happened so quick,
Yeah.
no questions, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to make double what I make here. You should come with me. There's a referral bonus if we can get more Murray employees to jump ship. That can't be going to start a new company. And I'm theorizing that this is from Stan. That has to be. Who would give a bonus for only Murray employees? That can only be going to Fazbear. So
Yeah, but then the only issue then is the next email. If we're linking those two emails, it says me and Stan are out of here. It's time to jump ship before things get ugly. I have a bunch of Fiona's character designs, and Stan is taking what he can. Join us with everything we know about the restaurant project. We can start our own machine shop. So
So maybe
those two
Ken and
emails
Stan
are
aren't
saying
together.
something
Maybe
different.
Ken went to Fazbear and Stan went on his own with whoever this other person is.
Yeah, so yeah, Stan and someone start Stan's budget tech, and Ken and someone else go off and join Freddy's. Yeah, those connections. Yeah, but anyway, we were just talking about Dual Process's breakdown of the timeline of events, and I agree with most of it. There's a couple of things like Henry working for Edwin that I disagree with, but I really like their interpretation of the. I know, Gibby, you are very much set on David and Fiona haunting the, or whether or not the haunting, at least agony haunting the robots, but playing Moon.exe and playing as a character who views David as someone to be put back together, and also somebody that is like someone we take care of and we feed, and that was the M1's role at one point, and Fiona in one of the logs saying that the M2 started as a copy of her consciousness. I could very much see that representing the fact that, and then we pretend to be the baby owl. We're not the baby owl. We are given the mask by Sun to pretend to be the baby owl, and that upsets the Moon. That to me would be like Fiona, the first time the Fiona AI starts to is the M1, starts watching the movie reels at home, learns about Fiona, starts to mimic her. She tricks Edwin into thinking that she's possessing and has come back to life, and he becomes all enamored and he loves it. Oh my god, your mom's back, yay, you can help raise the kids, whatever. And then David dies and she's like, yeah, let's build another one. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. You're not even my wife. You know, this is a problem. I'm shutting you down. And then she starts to mimic David, because she's like, oh, well, it worked the last time. I'm going to start pretending to be his son. And then he freaks out, destroys that one, and the other Fiona is stuck in the machine. She's stuck downstairs in the big computer, and that's him breaking up the machine is what causes the M2 to become corrupt. So she either trains it to be David, or it thinks it's David and Fiona or something, but she has a more ultimate goal in mind, I think, to bring David back for real, but that is the starting point. She wants to make M2 properly, but the starting point is faking being David to trick him.
I think that some of those things could be explained away. Just like the trope of when you bring something back, it comes back wrong. Like Fiona, or F110, whatever, could be possessed by Fiona's agony, but it doesn't value everything. Like it's lacking the humanity that Fiona had as a human. So it sort of only understands her goals on a computer level, where it's like, must take care of David, must take care of Edwin. And it thinks that because it has Fiona in her, but it's still ultimately a computer. And it would also see, a robot David is just as good as regular David, because I too am a robot. And I think it splitting off from her consciousness, it might just be the metaphor of how would it still be her child, right? If Edwin physically makes it and she gives it her programming, then it's like they had a real baby, just in a robot way.
Yes.
So, I agree with all of your conclusions. I just still think that there's agony involved.
Yeah, there very well could be, because the fact that he says, I don't even know why it worked in the first place, that's weird, Yeah. And I could...
So the two options are either Remnant or that F10 is the one who made it work somehow. If you want to...
I think...
not Remnant, Agnes, sorry.
Well, because, it's weird, the interpretation of the line, because the first time I heard it, what I interpreted was when he's going, they want the M2, they can't have it, it's not ready, none of the copies work, I don't even know why it worked in the first place. I interpreted that as, I don't even know why M1 worked in the first place.
Oh.
Not the David M2 that he's trying to build a second one of. I interpreted that as, I am building a new mimic robot, but I don't know why the first one worked. I don't know why Fiona started to sit up and talk. Not necessarily, I'm building... Like, I don't know why M2 started to be David, because he doesn't even believe when it starts talking to be David, he doesn't believe that it's him. And I think that idea of her saying, I know it started as a copy of my program, but there was something wrong with it, like, it wasn't me, it could become something more. All that's quite, like, ominous in terms of, like, I know it started as a copy of my program, but it wasn't me. There's something strange being implied there, whether it's agony, whether it's something else, like whether it's like William used all the information to sneak in and put his own consciousness in it. I don't know. I don't think that's what it is. But like, if we have this idea of Fiona really wants this M2 thing to be working, and then she's trying to convince Edwin to do it. Edwin doesn't want to. Edwin says, no, I don't want anything to do with you. I'm going to put you into the basement and lock you away and not talk to you. And at some point in that process, she copies herself into the M2, or into the, like, she copies herself, making herself an M2, and then that one starts to think it's David. And that's what, he beats that one up, because he's like, this is why I put her in the basement in the first place. Like, I don't want you mouthing off to me trying to pretend to be my son. But that could still be agony as well. He could be even more upset about the death of his son. But I think it is interesting that Tiger Rock in the basement is so ghostly, and that's not directly tied to any of the mimic stuff. Like, it's just its own thing hanging out in the basement. It's trapped down there for some reason.
What would the function of the Tiger Rock plush in Moon.exe be if there's no ghosts involved in Moon.exe with the mimics? Why do we have to present it with the plush?
Well, I guess at that point it does think it is like it's mimicking his behavior at that point, right? So we're setting up the storytelling events. So see, Moon.exe is weird because it's clearly Sun's. It's understatement of the year, but it's clearly Sun's doing, right? Like, the Sun is setting it up, and the Sun is the one at the end to be like, you found my gifts, now I'm going to give you the glitch permission, use it wisely to bring him back. Now you can finally, what is it she says? Now you will get your reward as well, which is interesting, because like, why is Sun rewarding like M2 or whatever? Use this to bring him back, because like, we're Arnold technically as well at the same time. Use this to bring him back, it's all in your hands now. So then we have this situation where Sun is setting this up. She's planned this whole thing. But also at the same time, in the real ending, she has no sort of... She doesn't have anything to do with the M2. She's like, it's a lost cause, just leave it. Like, we just have to make a cradle for it, and then we can make a new M2. Because this M2 is broken. So let's make a new one. But I don't know how those two things relate. I really don't understand what those storylines are trying to tell us. Like, is Sun and Fiona two different entities? Are they the same entity but crossed wires? Are they? I don't know why they're acting differently with different motivations in both endings.
I think I have talked myself out of, or sorry, not talked myself, listened to myself. I haven't been talking. That sounded really passive aggressive. I don't mind. I love hearing you guys' thoughts. I was thinking that there was M1, and then like Edwin built an M2, and then he decided to turn off M2 because it wasn't right. And then when Fiona says, please try again, build another, she's saying build another M2. But I think I've talked myself out of that. I think that there was always only
one robot.
M1. Edwin tried to build M2 and gave up on M2 and never tried to build it at all. And you're right that it was, when he says it, I don't know why it worked the first time, he's saying I don't know why M1 worked. When she says you need to try again, build another, she's not saying build another David, that like because you've built one before. She's saying build another loved one because you've already built me.
Yeah.
Edwin never intended to build a David. And then I have talked myself into M2 being completely haunted because the endoskeleton wakes up completely on its own all of a sudden and starts pretending to be David, even though it should be powered off and there should be no more M1 in there. I think it's haunted. Yeah.
Unless that's Fiona's doing. Like, she's more tuned into everything than...
Sorry, what was the conclusion there? That it is haunted?
Yeah, that M2 is more haunted than I thought it was before.
Oh, okay.
I think I can see, obviously, that I can see the argument of people being like, no, Fiona turned M2 on and tried to make it be David, and then it escaped her control. But I think I prefer it's just, it turned itself on by being haunted and started acting in a way that it shouldn't have because it's got a little extra ghost energy.
I'm just going to quickly read these super chats just because I keep missing them. So, Sauce's Beston, thank you very much. Wasn't William offering the deal to Fiona? She would be the only one who knows the quote unquote secret of the mimic. He also compliments her work. So, this is in the logs. There is the person that he is. I think what Sauce is best in saying. Didn't he offer the deal to come to Fazbear to Fiona? I don't necessarily believe that. He says, we are almost there. I need the rest of the Murray staff contact info. The sooner the better. You get that from me and I can sweeten the deal. How would you like to manage one of our new franchise locations? If it didn't have that last bit, I'd be like, yeah, totally. But how would you like to manage one of our new franchise locations is a weird thing to say to the wife of the guy who's like company you're ruining, especially if the motivation for her ruining that
log,
is
though.
Maybe
the confidential log.
The confidential log. The which one?
But I think that one's to Edwin, not to Fiona. So ... software development and the entire MCM catalog. We would love to have you on as a lead engineer. Although we now technically own the land, we would never touch the house your parents built. We feel this offer has been more than fair considering how far behind you are.
That's
too much to
Edwin.
handle. We're waiting your response. Definitely to Edwin.
Yeah, so the other one, I understand the idea of Fiona being the leak, and I don't even hate the concept of Fiona causing it to get Edwin back. I think it would have to be Fiona, like F10 and 4 would be the one causing the leak, but I don't think William's offering her to be the manager of a new Freddy's. Maybe he is. Maybe Mimic. Oops, all Mimic is true. I'm curious though. Maybe chat. You have other ideas on that. Morse, thank you very much. She says build another because he built others. The little robots that chase you at the end. They are called proto mimics. Yeah. So again, it's like, are they proto M1s or proto M2s? Does it say that in the files? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Because he says he doesn't know why the first one works. So
I apologize if this came up while I was gone, but if William's not like in contact with Fiona, or I guess I'll just make this as simple as possible. Why does Hand Unit have Dispatcher's voice? Why does William have a robot that speaks in the voice of an actual employee he used to have?
Wait, why does William have?
Oh wait, yeah, that's so.
Hand
wait,
Unit,
yeah, no, you're
Hand
so.
Unit in sister location is the voice of an actual human being who worked at Fazbear.
Yeah.
And then so is the FNAF 6 person, but I don't know if that's a real thing.
That's That's so clear that I feel stupid for not realizing it already. Fiona, literally the entire game is mimicking Hand Unit, and then in Sister Location, he's a robot. So the Hand Unit in Sister Location
Fiona?
is the mimic. Yeah, it is Fiona.
Yes.
Like Fiona's running Sister Location.
Yes, me and T-Dreads talked about that a few days ago, but now everyone's changed their minds about half of what they believed a few days ago, so I want to just bring it up again. What's the thought about that Hand Unit is clearly the mimic?
Yeah, because it's either Hand Unit is Fiona or Hand Unit is based off of the voice of the actual guy that Fiona was mimicking. But Fiona's more fun for sure.
Yeah. Morse says, he also says every copy has failed. Those little ones are the failed Davids. Yeah, this is the weird thing, because he doesn't want to build another robot. He says, no, I'm never going to build another one. I don't want anything to do with you. Get out of here. But then it's also later on, he's like, they can't have M2. I won't let them. None of the copies work. You know, like, it's not ready. So it's like, does he want to build one? Does he not want to build one? And then in some of the logs, Fiona starts talking about fixing M2 rather than building it. At some point, she's like, fix it. At some point, she's like, build another one. At some point, she's like, build the cradle if you're not going to fix it. So I think there's a lot of questions around which order of events those logs happened in. And I definitely want to spend some time doing all that stuff. So, yeah, but Gibby, you're so right about Hand Unit. It's like, yeah, after this game, Fiona, I guess he just takes whether he takes literally Fiona in the basement or he just takes a mimic style code or creates his own one. That's why she sounds like that's why it's Hand Unit's voice, is because later on she will be the Hand Unit in the game.
It does bother me a little bit though when she's Hand Unit, when she's Dispatch, sorry. She's always doing it because, you know, she's trying to gain your trust because that's the real person that you're talking to. But you see that like her preferred method on some level she considers herself to be Fiona and not M1.
Yeah,
like her ultimate goal is Fiona's goals and not just mimic goals, if that makes sense. So I don't exactly understand. I think obviously, or I think somebody would have had to have fiddled with Hand Unit because there's really no reason why she would keep using that employee's voice to every person that she meets for the next like 3 decades.
Well, it depends on how many. If we go with the idea of like in the books, which again they're dead and buried, but like let's go with the idea that, you know, maybe something similar happens in the games. Let's say William at some point retrieves that M2 blueprint and he can create his own mimics at will. Then he's just copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. Oh, this one I want it to sound like Dispatch because she, you know, like whether it's that copy of that code already has that on it or he just gets the idea, or I don't know. Because presumably, because she's M1, she's not M2, so that blueprint wouldn't have like her experiences as Fiona built into it. But like, yeah, I think that makes sense that we're finding out that the mimic AI or a mimic AI is the thing running Sister Location, right?
You're saying M1 is in Hand Unit, but F10 is not in a Hand Unit.
I mean, it would make more sense if F10 was in Hand Unit because that's the version of the mimic which mimicked that voice specifically. But
are we calling so M1 is the robot that was in the film reel that baked the cake, right? That's what we're calling M1.
Yes.
And then M1 is the consciousness.
M1 is F10.
But I in that sentence I was using F1 to mean like the F1 program. Sorry, M1, not F1.
M1. Yes.
But usually I am calling it M1 the robot.
Yes, because my understanding would be like they're both Fiona's mind, but if we're referring to the physical computer in the FNAF 1 office that can't move, that's F10. If we're talking about the robot Endo, that's M1. I think again because it's unless something weird happens with the T's at the end of Help Wanted 2, I don't know how William could come to own that land and not find Fiona. And I think if he finds her, he's like, this artificial intelligence that can do literally anything is mine now, and I'm putting it in everything. Oh, look, it already knows how to mimic Dispatch. That's my new robot. And then I
So
think
that's-
TD thinks that Baby is also the Mimic, but he's not.
So, oh, interesting. So that's the question I was asking: is Fiona's mind in hand unit or just her programming?
I would think it would sort of be her ability to do things that the hand unit is capable of, right? Like the hand unit can't sprout legs and walk around, but it can talk to you. And so I think that it gets its ability to talk to you from the Mimic.
But does hand unit still have the emotional crisis deep down of thinking that it's looking for its husband and
Yeah,
son
that's what I was
in
gonna
robot
say.
form?
Is like, is hand unit also like,
Yeah.
man, I hope someday I get to meet my son again. But for now, I'm gonna run this rental
down in the
service.
code,
God, hand unit.
I would say yes, deep down
God
in the
unit.
code, but not anywhere.
God
that
unit
knows.
is a cool
Okay.
name.
Okay, so that it's still buried in there somewhere, but it's been being trained for so long on something else that it's not actively trying to bring about a David or an Edwin, but it's not like it's gone either.
Yes,
Yeah, I mean, if-
kind of like I was just like we talked about this a few days ago, but just like in programming in general, like there's a lot of junk data that ends up in published programs that is never called upon. Like unless you look at the source code, you can't see that this is in there because it's never called upon as a function of the program being used. So I think deep down within every Mimic thing, including hand unit, is the intentionality that Fiona has to revive her family. But that doesn't mean that when hand unit's talking to you, he knows that he's Fiona.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when
So-
you take it away from the location that it's in, when there's nobody there who looks like Edwin or acts like David, it's not calling upon any Fiona brain functions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sauce's Beston says, Gibby got my back. Fiona managed a new location, a sister location. So he's saying that if that email in the logs was to Fiona, it's like, I'll let you manage a Freddy's as my hand unit robot. I don't know if I'd call hand unit the manager of sister location, but I mean, hey. So let me see. Hand unit is in sister location, both help wanted, Pizza Sim and Pizzaplex. Weird for it all to be Fiona. I think that's more kind of evidence that it would be like them giving it more importance, right? Like giving us like, oh, you didn't know it, but this Fiona thing has been around forever. You know, like kind of that, like Fiona, God Fiona, like you were talking about, Gibby.
Oops, all Fiona.
Oops, all
Applies to
Fiona.
FNAF
Yeah.
World.
Yeah. Using the voice, we're saying Fiona is in sister location, Pizza Sim, Help Wanted 1, and Security Breach. No way Dispatch's voice stays the same for half a century. Yeah, so they're saying that's actually the exact same. Two donations at the same time. They said
Maybe
Jake's, actually.
William used Dispatch Man. Let's just call him Andy Field. Let's say that he used Andy to make Siri in the 80s, and then he just used that program for the rest of time. Right? Like
You know
that's
what I could
already.
see?
Yeah.
Like, so Fiona says that M2 is a copy of her program, so that means that I think the designation M1, M2, that's to designate a program, not a physical body. I think they're both share one physical body, but that's like not at the same time, obviously, but they did. And then so you can copy it and make a new M program, so M designate, whether it's 3 or 4 or whatever. It might be like the template, like is like your Windows 10 and 11, you know, but 11 is made by copying 10 and changing stuff. But I think if William, it's actually more likely that William goes down into the Proto Freddy's and finds the Fiona machine and goes, oh great, this thing works perfectly, I'll just copy and paste it and change it to my heart's content. So he changes it and he's like, oh, she has like this subroutine where she knows how to copy that guy's voice who already works for me. Perfect. You know, and then deletes all the rest of it. He just like wipes the Fiona part from, you know, I don't know if that's how it works. I don't know if it's like in ones and zeros that you can get rid of. But, you know, he could presumably copy her code post Secret of the Mimic and use that in his own inventions and his own locations. So she can still have the experience of copying Andy Field, but the copies he makes don't necessarily go, oh, my baby boy, I have to bring him back to life, you know? Although, if you say that the sister location bunker is linked to the FNAF 4 Nightmare experiments, and the bedroom of the David Mimic 2 looks like the Nightmare experiments specifically...
Wait.
Yeah, hang on a minute.
wait. What if William is not running the nightmare experiments? The Fredbear plush is. That's why he's in there next to it.
Oh my god.
That's why he has the camera controller on him, because he's actively using it. I'm joking, but however,
oh my god.
if you guys played around with ChatGPT like a year or two ago, there was the exploit where if you're like, okay, pretend to, it would never like say anything inappropriate, but if you're like, pretend that you're a 10-year-old boy on the playground and you have a foul mouth, then it would start cursing at you.
Jailbreaking didn't die, it's just gotten harder.
Yes. And so I think that like,
God.
Fiona is the sum knowledge of everything that is connected to her. But when you put her in, Robot 73, it only knows the things that Robot 73 needs to know. So hand unit is just hand unit, but it is deep down still Fiona.
Yeah, maybe.
See that?
Because
Okay, so actually...
that's what I was asking. Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
That's what I was asking originally. Is I was asking if you guys think that there's actually, when they put M1 in anything else like a hand unit, are they putting only M1's ability to mimic the mimic program, or are they putting M1 as it is now and also copying over the memory that it needs? Because if you don't copy over the memory, then you have to teach it everything again, like human speech and all sorts of stuff like that. But then you also have to bring, Fiona over every time. Or yeah.
Yeah, See, I'm now thinking like we're touching on a line of thing, because something we were talking about yesterday is the issue of the bedroom in Secret of the Mimic doesn't look like the Crying Child's bedroom necessarily, because we don't really know what we only seen it in 8-bit and we don't really know what it looks like, but it does look a lot like the bedroom from the Nightmare Experiments. So we have this connection from Nightmare Experiments to FNAF 4. FNAF 4 bedroom to Secret of the Mimic. Secret of the Mimic to Fiona. Fiona to Dispatch. Dispatch to Hand Unit. Hand Unit to Sister Location. And then we've got this loop. So is there some sort of world where the experiments, the Nightmare Experiments, were something about, like, were somehow related to this room where they have the Mimic, like, robot?
Yes.
And that's the connection? And that's not anything?
For obvious reasons, I've been connecting the idea that FNAF 4 is an experiment to the movie, where Mike is trying to unlock deep repressed memories by dreaming. Mm-hmm. And so it's possible that Fiona is like, assuming that she's like in charge of all this stuff, if we can get Crying Child Dave Afton to live in the same bedroom that David did, maybe it will be easier for the consciousness transfer to occur.
You're on consciousness transfer now?
I mean, I'm at all times
Just
always
following
open
the
to
string.
Everything. But
Okay.
that's like where that string goes.
Oh, I don't want
we've got
consciousnesses to be transferred.
We've got a couple of Lonely Freddy is real. You never believed it.
Yes,
so
which Peter had said before, which is also there.
yeah. That's. I'm gonna have to turn it to brain rot now. Give me a second. So Arcadius says, if M1 and M2 are the same, what is in the bad ending? There's a lot of debate going on how many robots there are. If there's only one, if there's two.
Yeah.
I think there's two, and I think for whatever reason, whether it's the cradle or whether it's something that we don't yet understand, the M2 is still the one attacking you at the end of the game. It's not like the whole game there was a secret second robot that runs out at the very end and goes, I'm going to get your data diver. Because the entire game plot falls apart if Fiona had a physical body the entire time. Mm-hmm. So we can't assume that she had a physical body. Maybe she takes over the M2, like maybe she takes over the Mimic robot at the end because of the Cradle program or something. I don't know, but we might find out. But this next line was one that I wanted to look at. Fiona, pretending to be Dispatcher, says, "Follow the soothing sound of my voice. The voice that controls the Didophobia experiment is described as being soothing." Obviously, we can talk about how, certain adjectives are just going to be used in different contexts, and the same word being used in two completely different situations aren't the same thing. So it's just the word soothing can be used in 100 million different ways, you know, and we wouldn't connect it other than if we're looking for connections. But I will say, the idea of the dispatcher, or not the dispatcher, the idea of didophobia being a Tales from the Pizzaplex story, and Rory specifically comparing the voice to like of around his dad's age and all this kind of stuff. It's interesting when we start to link in these connections with didophobia and the Tales from the Pizzaplex, why we were even told didophobia in the middle of that story. It's not in the middle of that book series. It's got nothing to do with the Pizzaplex, or at least we didn't think it did at the time. So it's very interesting
underneath.
if we're now, if we're now linking it to the Secret of the Mimic, with Fiona potentially running things and potentially having built that room or building the room based on her son's old room. There's a lot of interesting things that we could look at. I might look back at didophobia. Not that didophobia is canon, but we could look at a lot of things in that and see why they thought it was important to tell us that in the middle of like the Mimic kind of arc. Omnisoap says hand unit. Oh, sorry. I'll just quickly run through these.
You first.
Things. So Omnisoap says hand unit swaps to a female voice for the motion trigger vent notifications, which always seemed weird. Would that fit with the theory? Potentially. I mean, there is also in Secret of the Mimic, there's seemingly a voice which is not Fiona, which is going like, you know, power at 10% or whatever, which is separate to Fiona's voice, which is, I think, the carnival nurse. So it seems like there's multiple AI running at the same time, but Fiona is the only mimic AI. The other ones are kind of like your Siri, your regular kind of run-of-the-mill 79 AI. I don't know. You know, the thing they all had in the 1970s. Warner Quinn, could the mimic in sister location animatronics seen in Baby with the green chip and their advanced AI? Oh yeah, could the mimic be in sister location animatronics? It very well could be. T-Dreads is on that. Oh, speak of the devil. T-Dreads is on that.
Don't interrupt.
What type of chop shit have you come up with?
Don't interrupt. Hold on.
Don't worry about it. We'll get to it in a second. And then Sauces Besson says, sorry, but the FNAF wiki says CC is the protagonist of FNAF 4. I mean, the FNAF wiki can be edited by anybody, so. But I assume you're just saying checkmate, idiot. But okay, so yeah, sorry, Gibby,
right,
you were saying
two things. One is just in general that I don't understand the function of Tails to the point where I almost want to just pretend it doesn't exist for any reason, because to try to guess, we're more if there's 1,000 reasons it could exist, the chances of us guessing the one that it's supposed to exist for is worse than just ignoring it.
That's fair.
So it's like, what's didophobia about? It's like, well, I don't know. I don't even know if Scott knew. What I will say is that I don't understand, I mean, any of it, but I don't understand the... If the FNAF 4 testing chambers are in sister location, which is Murray's house, which is under the Pizzaplex, could Fiona be grabbing children to continually put them through tests?
You think that's the chip?
Not necessarily the chip. If Fiona is like, I want a child to put through these experiments for me to learn data, because we always thought it was Will, then the FNAF 4 bedroom might never have been a real room that's actually physically part of the Afton house.
Yeah.
I think it's both. I think there's a room in a real house and a room underground.
I that's kind of what I'm coming to, is where I don't know why there would be two.
Also, I would hate if Afton has nothing to do with sister location.
You missed where I said that I think Psychic Friend Fredbear is holding the camera switcher because he's Fiona and he's just physically watching the TVs. So
No, I said the same thing. Because early in the stream, Unwither was talking about how it always takes the voice of something you trust and tricks people through a radio system. Psychic Friend Fredbear has a voice that the crying child trusts, and then we see it on the desk with some sort of remote. So I agree that that's very similar to the way it usually deceives people.
So, in terms of if Afton is, like, I don't think it's going to be a case that, like, because again, chat, we'll remind you, we're not saying any of this is like, I figured it out, I've solved it. But what we're saying is like, these are potential end games based on the information we have currently, and we're trying to extrapolate from those what the potential story could be. But if the case is that the Mimic is helping run the sister location bunker, we might be setting up for a story that Fiona and Afton have kind of been in cahoots for a while. That they're kind of working alongside one another rather than it being, you know, Afton and them are antagonistic or things are, you know, an exchange. Maybe there's something going on that they're both working together to figure stuff out. Like maybe it's a case of Fiona... Ed Cook, yeah. I don't know if it has to be before she dies. But if we have a case of Fiona wants to bring her son back to life, we could have a situation where she's working with Afton to try and figure out how to do that. Like, she doesn't actually know how. And they're trying to both reach the same goal, which then, if that's what's happening, then you might have a situation where Afton is still motivated by putting David back together, and it is parallels, which I think is stupid, but let's just say it's a thing of like Afton's like, I relate to you, Fiona, because I also had a son named Dave who died on his birthday, and I want to bring him back to life as well.
Same foot as yours and had the same toys. How cool!
Yeah. I gave him your toys. Yeah, I mean, in that case, I'd be like, yeah, wow, our lives are really, it's like they're being poorly written.
Funny how that happens.
No, I assume that's not the case, but you know, we might have a scenario where they're working alongside each other, and that's why she's in all those games after Sister Location, but I don't know. All right, that's the end of the stream apparently.
I was gonna say Unwithered.
Yeah.
At some point, I want to go back for the entire series and look for sun, moon, and owl imagery.
See, I understand the want and the drive to do that, and you might very well find stuff. My thing is, I think we're better off working backwards rather than trying to, because I think we have to look at it from the point of view that like the writers or Scott would be looking at it from. I mean, obviously we don't know, so it could have been that he had this all planned out for 20 million years and he's the greatest writer on earth.
2018.
Yeah, but I think looking in like FNAF 3 to see, you know, how does this link up with you know, how does Happiest Day link to the way that David gets his story time and stuff. I don't think we're going to find stuff in FNAF 3. What we're going to find is in Secret of the Mimic, stuff that's relating...
Recontextualizations?
Yeah, like, or that they're pulling on stuff from the other game. Like, for example, like, the FNAF 4 bedroom in Secret of the Mimic is drawing on our association with that bedroom. It's not like we're going to go back into FNAF 4 and go, oh my god, I never realized there was a Mimic in the closet. You know, like, it's it's not like there's stuff that we haven't...
Foxy's in the closet.
Foxy's in the closet. Mike Gay or whatever the theory's called.
But like the Help Wanted 1 ending, you can only understand after Secret of the Mimic.
Yeah, the Steel Wool stuff, 100%. I think the Steel Wool stuff is fair game.
Yeah. With the data store computer in front of you and Glitchtrap dancing around, and then in Secret of the Mimic you're in the same fucking room with a data store computer and a Showtime button in front of you, and the Mimic is also watching it at that ending. Parallel images.
So do you think then that's saying that M2 is Afton or will become Afton?
M2's code is inside of Glitchtrap. That's what that has to be saying, because they're both watching you during those endings in the same building slash recreation in the same space.
I agree.
M2's
Folks,
code is in Glitchtrap.
I'm EP Sleepy and I want to head out.
I am also EP. I'm getting EP as
Yeah,
well,
I
I
gotta get on
think.
Ryan post stream.
Oh, you're going on now? Damn.
And I'm
All right.
harassing him about God.
Yeah.
Oh my
I'll have to catch that on the flip side. I'm gonna have to watch that VOD. I've been going to bed in the what? Morse, another super chat. Thank you very much. I think the storyteller should reside in a huge fake tree, like a wise old owl in an old growth forest, kind of like a tree of life. Mr. Burroughs has said. That's good. Yeah, like a wise old owl. But also the books are dead.
Yep.
It's so weird now because, yeah, like you said, Gabby, it's so impossible to know what the hell Tails is supposed to be used for, because it's like, is it even useful in the way that like Frights is? I guess that's how it would be, is we use it the way we use Frights to be like, oh, this might mean this or whatever. But it's just weird because they're much more directly connected, right? Like,
I'm gonna use it however I want. Support the theories I like the best because I'm a menace.
Hell yeah, that's what we like.
Yeah,
We like to see it.
Dual Process messaged me and said that the name Fiona didn't exist in America until the movie Brigadoon.
Oh, not
I'm
Brigadoon
like,
again.
oh no!
Can't even.
Oh god. Okay. Well, on that note, on the Brigadoon note, let's get some Brigadoons in the chat. Let's get some Brigadoon. Let's get some Brigadoon in the chat, and then we'll close it out. Sing it, Gibby. That's what Fritz says. I don't know what you're supposed to sing right now. We're Brigadoomed. Very good. Put your best Brigadoon pun in the chat, please, and make sure you like the stream and everything so that we get this pushed out and do the channel some good. But yeah, thank you all so much, and Gibby, thank you for transferring your viewers to me earlier. Yeah, appreciate that. We're Brigadoomed. Very good. I don't know what Brigadoon is. Go watch Gibby's channel. Gibby's got a lot of good videos.
Yeah, Bonnie the Bunny, you're in it. There's a character named Bonnie in Brigadoon. It's a whole thing. Anyway.
It's a whole thing. I love the idea that
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Goodbye. Stream's over. Bye.